Yeah, no, I'm really happy to not be drinking things out of Tupperware anymore.
That's
Uh,
great, man.
that fresh depression.
Big step to start the cleanup.
Yeah, I yeah, cleanup's good.
Gosh.
What were your weeks
Well, I
like?
don't. Pretty bleh. My freaking. I had to drive down to Los Angeles 3 times this week.
Mm.
It's just kind of exhausting, and like the work is okay, but I had a piece of. I'm gonna tell the story again because it's fucking stupid. That where I had a piece of tubing fall out of the truck, like almost like I was like I could have Final Destination someone,
Yeah.
and then just like I forget like an important piece of equipment, so I had to go down an extra day, and just kind of like, man, this is exhausting, and I don't think my coworker likes me. Like straight up, just think he finds me annoying, but that's fine. It's fine. I
Coworker.
offered him. I offered a coworker a piece of jicama. You guys have both had jicama, right?
Yeah, that jicama.
Honestly, you
Yes.
had jicama.
That it's
So
like it's the white,
yeah.
like,
It's like
yeah,
a root.
okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
root vegetable or something.
It's
Yeah, I've had
someone described it
jicama.
as a starchy apple.
Ooh, it ain't
Mm,
sweet like an apple. I'll tell you that
Mm-mm.
much.
So I offered him a piece of jicama, and he goes, "I don't want to have a bad taste in my mouth if I don't like it." And I was like, "Oh, I mean, you're not wrong, but like, just a weird answer to give." Like it's like it's even for me that's like super direct and being like your food looks weird. I don't want to even risk it. And I was like, I'm okay. And then I like later the day I offered it to my other coworker. He's like, never heard of it. And he just ate it like straight. didn't give any pause. And he was like, it's weird, but it's good. I like it. And I was like, great.
You know, I always feel really weird when people talk about like not liking food enough for them to like and not liking food because they don't like it because they've already tried it, but like having a fear of the taste of food. Like my one
There's
of
definitely
yeah, it's
that's
weird.
weird. Yeah. Do you have who do you have? I have a story about like food and texture.
I have a couple of family members whose diets are not diversified enough to to
Yep.
I'm just like, wait, so you haven't tried this thing, you're an adult, you haven't tried this thing,
Yes.
uh are you going to try it, like why? And they're like, no, I just don't want to try it. And like I know what I like these three food items and I eat them every day.
Cheese,
my
potatoes, meat. That's what I like.
my parents are like that with lingua. Like they refuse
Oh,
to
The
try
ling was so
tongue.
good.
it's
I
delicious.
I know. Even like the Korean barbecue tongue where it's like all thinly
Damn.
sliced. That's really good
Yeah.
too.
Wow.
Have you ever had tripas? Tripe?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have
I
two.
don't like it that
I
much, but I definitely tried it.
I
And
haven't
there was
had
just a
it.
part where like it was really chewy, and I was like,
Yeah, I haven't
Mm.
had it in the Mexican fashion, but I had it in my pho once, and it was like the one thing where I like came. It's the one thing in my adult life that I came across that was like, oh my god, I don't know if I can or if I want to eat this again.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
just,
it's God.
and I
We
couldn't
we, we did
tell.
it too. Would you guys know that like when they have the big like brass? It's not brass. It's like the big bronze like dish, and they like deep fry in it. You know what I'm talking about? Are you guys not that Mexican? That
I
you guys do
no,
that, and it's like on a bunch of bricks from like the side of the house.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about, although I've never had it. Like I've
So
never cooked
that's
that way.
one of my favorite things because they'll like deep fry chicken and they'll make
Mm.
like fucking fries there. It's so good. But that's how they made the tripe. So the tripe was this crunchiness, but the inside still had a chewiness to it, which is so bizarre and gross. I just couldn't.
Sounds
Like I
gross.
tried. If it was a small piece, you could just like chew, 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 and then swallow. But I had like I remember a long enough piece that it was just like I can't eat this in one bite, and like just like trying to like bite it and then do that pull like it's a delicious cheese of pizza,
like mozzarella stick.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry, Andres, I cut you off.
I think I'd be willing to try tripas, but honestly, when I saw it in my pho, like I could see like the little thing, like how the intestine looks on the inside, like how there's those little feelers. I can't think about what they're called biologically right now, but the way that they just like stick out of the inside of the wall, and I could see that, and it's like, fingers. Oh man, like this is bizarre.
Can't do
it. I mean,
like if I had it in a burrito and was not looking it in the eye, maybe I'd give it a fair chance, but I can't.
Yeah. The one time I had intestine was at like a Korean barbecue place, and it's pretty gnarly when it's like freshly cooked. I think that's part of the problem. If it's just like cooked by itself, it's a little strong, rubbery, and then if you see inside, game over. You know,
it's hard to eat for sure. I don't know, but then it's like menudo. I love menudo.
Right,
and
exactly.
I remember my ex-girlfriend came over, and she's half white, half Mexican, and I had menudo because I wanted it. My mom made it for me, and she was like, I'll try it, but if it's like stomach or something, I won't eat it. And like my mom and I looked at each other like we were on like a TV show, and we we're like, it's just meat. It's just meat. Why does it look like that? And we're like, it's how it's cut. It's very difficult to do. Like straight up just lying to her.
That's funny.
God, it's so good though.
Yeah,
I mean, if you like gave anybody who says they don't like tongue lengua and didn't tell them, they would probably just think it was pot roast or something like that. And they'd be like, "Oh, this is really good."
So good.
Oh, it's so delicious. Good. But you can't pull that off with every, form of meat though. Like it has to be like a really beloved, flavor-wise a beloved item, Like lengua can stand on its own,
I think lengua might be one of my favorite tacos, but I've had cabeza, which I don't think is brain. I think it's just head meat.
Yeah,
get that dome meat.
I've seen a couple places call it brain, but I've also seen a lot of places just thing. Like say head meat, like like cheek or whatever.
Yeah,
I'd eat that. I wouldn't eat. I've never eaten an eyeball. Like some people eat like the fish eyeball.
Yeah,
never done that. Not really down to do that.
Yeah, I mean the really nice thing about Southern California is that you can find all of those things. So if you're interested, take a look around. In Connecticut, we don't have any of that. So
yeah. When I was in Hawaii, I remember I was like, I want to make a barbecue. I want some asada, and I didn't know how to find that in a non-Mexican like. It's called flank steak. Now I know, but like even then, it's not like prepared the same way.
And it's the
just
cut.
The cut of the meat is like a little bit different. It can substitute for sure, but it's definitely not the same thing. I remember I went to a party once, and the person was like, "We need to get more meat," and so we sent someone else to go buy meat, and then they came back with like, we were like, "Go buy this meat." I think we've said blanchilla, and it's like a cheap meat. It's really good for you. And then ranchera is really good, but you should buy a smaller amount of that. So like it's like good, like you have like the really good one in the beginning, then you have like the one that's like substituting while you're full.
Mm-hmm.
The dude goes out and he only buys 1 pound of each meat, but he's like showing it off like, dude, this is gonna be the best. And I'm like, a pound of meat? There's like 20 people coming to this party.
Hey, I know what party this is.
Yeah, I remember specifically this conversation now. I was like, wait a second, this is oddly familiar.
I was in the story.
Yeah, this is oddly familiar.
I was not in this story, but I definitely was at that party and heard this story later that night.
I was so annoyed.
Yeah,
I guess it's a thing of like I've hosted so many barbecues. I'm aware of like you should buy extra. You should assume people are gonna eat. And I remember someone specifically saying like, "Well, I would only eat like one hot dog." And it's like, why would you assume you're the basis for everyone else when that's just not how this works?
Yeah, I definitely was always raised to be in that mindset of make extra, just deal with leftovers if nobody eats.
Give people plates if you can.
Yeah.
Like
that's I
definitely know some
stuff.
people, and I won't say how I know them because maybe they'll listen to this podcast, who make sure that they take home a plate. Like they make sure that they get some to take home. And I'm like, I've never done that. I get it. It is securing like the bag and like making sure you're like taken care of. But it also to me feels a bit weird to be like, hey,
this
I'm
is
taking
my food.
For me and my entire family.
Yeah.
Like that. Like,
that's something that like that's something that older people who have families do all the time though. Like that's just an old person thing.
Yeah. I have another story now that I think about it.
Old head.
Here's the reverse of this. When you go somewhere where you taught like to bring something, like you bring a food or you bring like a dessert, a drink or something, where you taught that, like was that a thing like your family did?
That's something my mom did all the time. She still does when we're going to. Well, so I guess it's a little different depending on the circumstance because if you're going to a party that's for like the holidays, generally the food situation is worked out in my family such that you bring all of everyone brings something. But if it's less formal, if it's like a random party, like a birthday party or something, my mom has
random birthdays all the year.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know what mine is this year.
Yeah.
Gotta wait for the first for the RNG to hit.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty
just
cool.
hope you don't get January 1st or else nobody's gonna
Damn
know.
it.
Damn. Anyways, when it's like a birthday party for like an extended family member, sometimes like my mom will like want to bring something. And I'm like, I get it. But also,
you can bring like a dessert. I think it's pretty common and stuff.
Yeah, they're always trying to make it into a potluck in a certain way.
Yeah. I think if you were like, I brought an extra thing of rice, it's like, what? Like, what are you doing?
I brought a present.
I think my rule of thumb was definitely always ask if I should bring anything, and if they say no,
hey, do you guys need anything or whatever?
Yeah, and if they say no, then they say no, and I'll just show up.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
I had friend of the show, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Come to my house one time, and Brian had brought a box of chocolates to the house. I never like. I love Brian. Brian's one of my favorite people. I don't hang out with Brian enough as I'm learning throughout my life, and I'm trying to be engaged with him more. But one time I just invited him over, and he brought a box of what are those chocolates you get at the mall? The white box.
A Lindor?
See's candy.
See's.
Big box of See's candy. There were like 10 left. It's a box of like 36.
He
I was like, what is this?
He brought leftover.
And he goes, my mom taught me to bring things to people's homes as a thank you for being invited. And I'm like, your mom taught you to bring leftover fucking chocolate to the fucking house you're going to?
That's wild.
He was like, I brought something. And I'm like, you're missing all the other parts of this.
I think it's quite a power play to bring your leftovers, honestly.
It blew me away. It was the best. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
We ate them there, and he was like, "See, you ate the chocolates." I'm like, "Shut up, dude!"
You want to know? I mean, on the topic of this conversation of like bringing food from the outside, one of the things that's really weird for me is having to bring my own food to a restaurant because they don't have anything.
You have such a strange life with that, and I always feel bad.
I wouldn't don't feel bad because like nowadays it's real easy to remedy it, and a lot of places are like trying to catch the uptrend of veganism, and well
But it's just
it's already been
like
there, you know.
like at the part we referenced earlier when you were kind of just like forced to buy your own food,
Oh,
and
that
like
yeah.
everyone else was paid for and everyone else got to eat. That part made me upset. I just was like, this is not how you take care of a party. And then it was also justified. They're like, we bought him the veggie straws. And I was like, what?
These fucking veggie straws. I remember
so
that.
blown away.
You know, I didn't mind it at all for the record. I think it was fine.
My pride as a host was offended.
Yeah,
I was very upset.
I could definitely see how that would,
because we didn't even think about it when we sent people to go buy meat.
Yeah, I think
that made me. I felt bad there. I'm like, I could have remedied the situation.
I think they tried to
get
find
him 3 tomatoes.
They tried to find him
his meal.
They tried to find Impossible Burgers or something.
Veggie without the straw. Get that for Manny.
Shit, I'll take veggie without the straw. Yeah, but yeah, I think in general, like the one that always hits home for me in a weird way is I had my birthday party at like BJ's, but I brought a burrito from somewhere else because I couldn't get anything at BJ's.
That was so weird. That was so weird. I don't know why we did that. That was so weird. That was a cool party too because I got to see my coworkers, like my managers, and then they invited me over and they bought me drinks, and I was like, "This is cool."
That's really nice. Yeah, yeah, it was just fucking weird because my family wanted to have...
Your family wanted the situation and like the formality of throwing you a party. They wanted to celebrate your birthday, but they also did not want to be inconvenienced enough to go to a vegan restaurant.
Yeah, basically.
Which, I mean, some of us have totally done before.
Yeah.
But I get it. I don't like vegan food at all.
Well, and I think that's... I mean, we don't have to have a whole long vegan section to this, but because veganism has been a trend for like the last 15 years or whatever, probably longer, but because it became like a fad, like a diet fad, now places just carry a shit ton of vegan options.
Yes.
And BJ's is notably one of the places that doesn't, but besides the salad. But, you know, like that's a nice thing is like when you can find a place that has a bunch of different things for everyone, that's like it's the go-to for me.
Inclusivity, etc., etc.
Because, I mean, like, on the other end, like, vegans already feel like, when you're going out with friends, vegans already sort of feel like they're inconveniencing others by having to decide a place that they can eat at.
Inconveniencing and being better than others, in my opinion. But that's usually...
Yes, that is an Alexi hot take for sure.
Come at me, vegan.
But yeah, so because of that, like we're already in a place where like we don't want the opposite end of the spectrum to happen, where like everyone has to eat vegan food or everyone has to eat like specifically vegan fast food, which is what a lot of places do. So, so finding a place that has like for example, my go-to. This is a deep cut for all those Ventura County folks out there. But
all those veggie heads in V-Town. What are we doing, Manny?
There's
kill me.
Yeah, there's a place called Norte Sur next to the old Century 16 in Ventura that got turned into a church. And that
mega church?
Yeah. And that place is like pretty decent Mexican food, but they have like a huge vegan selection and they have a regular vegan, or they have a regular like omnivore selection for food, and it's great. And so, but my family didn't want to have the party there for obvious reasons because it's a food court.
It is a food court.
It is indeed a food court now that I think about it.
So
we could have went to Cronies instead.
Damn.
Ooh, Cronies, the mediocre place.
We should have went to Tommy's. Birthday party at Tommy's.
I'm saying we, even though I didn't go to that party because I was still in school, but
yeah,
it was fun.
I remember once I saw like some kids have a birthday party at Jack in the Box.
Oh no!
And it's like one of the things like, it's either this family's suffering financially, and this is the best they could do for the kid. And there was like 4 other kids or 3 other kids, or whatever, and they like had a birthday cake, and they all looked like they were having a good time. Or it's when kids are like, "Where do you want to go?" And they're just like, "Jack in the Box."
I'm pretty
Where
sure
else
it was.
do you want to go? Jack in the Box, and you're like, "Yes."
I'm pretty sure it was probably both, but mainly the
God.
second one.
Because
I like the second one a lot more.
Yeah, well, I
I'm
mean,
sure it was the second one for the most part. And then if they were struggling financially, it was just like, all right, sick.
Our kid's a fucking idiot.
I mean, like, I feel if they were struggling financially, the first option would be to do something at home. You know, like, I feel like
That's true.
that would be if they had the space. But then again, if they're struggling they're so financially desperate that they don't have.
Sadder. We're just getting sadder.
Yeah, you know, they could be homeless and they could be celebrating.
They could be homeless.
But
can we change subject? Speaking of homelessness, have you ever heard of this new band?
Yeah, well, speaking of depressing,
I got a transition. I've got a transition.
It's got a segue.
This started with asking what we did this week. I went to a concert. It was definitely not Fall Out Boy, but it was pretty rockin'.
What'd you go to for the record? I want to talk about this. Oh shit!
It was pretty good. They definitely know how to put on a good show, although it compared to the last one, for obvious reasons, they weren't quite as often jumping in the crowd, although they did have a couple moments. I basically got to, or the guitarist got basically close enough to like touch him to me, because he is just like playing his guitar and walking around the crowd. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
But I've seen them twice. I probably would say the first time was a little bit more fun, but second time was still great.
It might be like that. Your first time doing it, energy too is affecting that memory.
A little bit, but they're definitely
no.
it was definitely a lot more energetic, I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a similar.
Did you ever invite Sebastian?
Oh no, we found somebody before I invited him.
I was like, well, my Andres might be going to see Idols, and he's like, when? I'm like, Thursday? He goes, I might be free. I'm like, are you inviting yourself?
Yeah, on the topic of the energy of like seeing repeat shows, or repeat artists, or seeing another show by the same artist, there is a band that is coming to Connecticut to play a show with like a alternative art screamo band here in the state. But they're doing like a Northeastern tour. And the first show I saw of them, I'm leaving them nameless because they are going to be one of my recs for the next episode I do.
I'm pretty sure I know exactly who you're talking about already, but
yeah. So when I saw them in LA, which was their hometown, they're the place of residence.
Okay, I know exactly who you're talking about. And I'm pretty hyped you're getting to see Foxtails out there at the home show. Yeah,
you know, it's funny. I didn't really know about Foxtails until I saw that they were doing this, and then I'm super hyped about it. But anyways, so Alexi doesn't care about spoilers. No one else cares about spoilers. Do you? Alexi? He says no. So when I saw Touche Amore in Los Angeles, like the energy for that show was extremely high. Extremely high. And now I'm wondering what it's going to be like in Connecticut, where we still have these mask mandates that are happening, and like I went to a show and it was It was Between the Buried and Me show, and if you know that band, they get a little rowdy sometimes. And everyone had to wear their masks, and there was no moshing. It felt really weird.
The Idols definitely like got people to do the Wall of Death.
Nice, nice.
It's the Wall of Death. I've never heard of the Wall of Death.
Oh, Lexi, you're missing out, my friend.
I like moshing too.
We got to get you to do a Wall of Death. It's intimidating.
What is it? Is that just when like you have like just two lines of people like running at each other? Oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. They're just playing the first song, and in the middle of it, they kind of just cut out and then go to a really fast part. So when they cut out, they're like, all right, you guys, split the crowd.
Oh, God, I love that. I love that shit. Yeah, there were staff members that were basically, like, kicking people out from the venue if they were moshing.
For taking off their mask? For moshing.
Yeah.
When I went to the bars last night, there was hey, you can't get in unless you're wearing a mask. And then as soon as you walked in, no one was wearing a mask. And other bars, just no one at all in this bar.
Yeah.
And there was a point where it was like, and also I had to take mine off because it was just like so sweaty at the point, and then totally just like I felt peer pressure just take it off. Like, no one gave me shit, but I was just like self peer pressure.
You're giving yourself shit. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
It was definitely 50-50 at the Idol show. Like, people weren't wearing their mask, but Vax was also required, so...
Oh, got it.
You guys... Were you told... You got Vax in LA, I think. Were you told to take a picture of your Vax card?
I did, but I wasn't told to do it.
Were you told to do that, Manny?
No, I was not told to do that.
I was told by someone that, like, you have to take a picture of it. They tell you to take a picture of it in case you have to prove it to anyone. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking. I've never heard that.
Right,
He's
it's
like,
pretty
everyone
weird.
has heard that. And it was like, you're just judging it off your sole experience. And I was just like, okay. I keep mine in my car.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. I should probably keep mine in my wallet or something, like fold it up, but...
I know someone that they got it and, like, edited it on, like, they scanned it, printed it out, and then made it, like, laminated. And they're like, I have this to show. I'm like, that looks fake. And they're like, yeah, but if they're checking it, they don't care. I'm like,
they
care
so explicitly. The whole thing is like fake printed Vax cards is a thing right now. It's like illegal, sort of.
I really hope they get caught. It'd be really funny to me if they got caught.
For hot tip for all the California boys out there, there's definitely an app, or not an app, but something that the state of California offers where you can get a digital Vax card. So I just have it on my phone.
Fresh.
What's the app?
It just saves to your Google Wallet. So and it offers you, like, I have a little icon right there, and then
I'm gonna do that
press
now.
it, and then it's my Vax card. It's dummy bright, but
that's cool. I need to do that then.
All of our props for this episode are just Vax cards.
Yeah, I'll post my Vax card on the Instagram. We completely dox myself.
I was at a security, trying to get through security somewhere, and the dude was like, we're supposed to, if we don't know you, it's not true, we've been to that location many times, it's part of my company, check your Vax card. I don't think that's okay. I personally don't agree with that. And I was like, oh, this man?
This man is soliloquying for me right now.
I was just like, this is not cool.
Yeah. I have
I just don't know about... I don't know. Go ahead, Manny.
I was going to change the subject completely. Not sure if we should do that.
I just didn't want to have a fallout of a conversation.
LOL. We're not going to take that segue yet.
This is the moment I kill
because
myself with an actual person saying LOL to me to my face. God.
Well,
this is it, dude.
No.
The rest of this episode is just my suicide letter.
Damn, that would be hit.
Trigger warning, sorry, or whatever.
I would listen to that shit.
That's definitely a Fall Out Boy song.
That's literally a song name. I went to Salem over Halloween.
That's pretty cool.
And because we are a Satanic Temple sponsored podcast, I am obligated to say that I visited the temple.
Oh, how was it?
It was pretty hip. It's like a house.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it could be much else.
They have like other stuff, and they have a space they use, but the house is pretty epic. It's an art gallery. The art is all like anti-religion art, and like surrealist art. They have like 4 original Salvador Dali paintings in their house.
Nice.
Whoa.
It's pretty wild. They also have the Baphomet statue, which I'm not sure how many folks are up to date with like the Satanic Temple happenings, but which is probably no one.
Not much.
Disagree. I spread that word.
So back in sometime in the 2010s, there was
really that early.
The 2010s?
Really? I feel like it was earlier than that. But okay.
Well, I'm pretty sure this happened in the 2010s. There was it might have happened in the early 2000s. I don't necessarily remember, but there was a religious statue that was put out in front of like a governmental building somewhere in like the middle of the U.S. Mm-hmm. And the Satanic Temple took note of it, and they were like, their whole thing is sort of separation of church and state, logical reasoning, etc., etc.
The idea of it being satanic is totally just for shock value and meant to be like, this is, you guys are allowed to worship this and whatever you want, so we'll do the evil thing that you don't like.
Well, I think that that's like a surface, I think that that's like a good first interpretation. I've seen, when I visited, I learned more about this, but apparently, and I'm not very connected with any sort of religion, so I don't know, I can't fact check this, but apparently Lucifer sort of represented a variety of different embodiments of like reasoning and logic and like sort of like the things that God didn't want. So I think so it is like this sort of like literal counter to Christianity, but it's also with the principles of like logic, reasoning, like equity in mind, which I think is
but they take that as they're not. I don't. There's the straight up people who worship Satan, and then these people who are like, this is like there's good in all religions and stuff, but we're here to make sure it's not in our government.
Yeah.
Government.
They have a pretty big like separation of church and state thing that they do, and so they found out about this and they got clearance to some form of clearance to put up a Baphomet statue in front of another governmental building in the same city, and it basically caused them to remove both statues.
Yes,
which is pretty interesting. And so the statue that was commissioned for and everything, that sits in one of the rooms in the temple house, and it's pretty big, and you can like sit on it and take pictures with it, and it's very spooky in a fun way.
That's the source of that one video, right? The "Notice me, senpai, notice me." Right?
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Shout out to Onyx the Fortuitous, also so known as Andrew Bowser.
Yeah,
he's crazy. I love that guy.
It's a bit. Like, it's a character.
It's a bit.
I totally love it. But he's like, I don't know.
He seems like a really funny dude. Like the dude behind it.
Those people that can embody characters so well blow me away in a way of like jealousy for sure. Like they're super talented.
Mm-hmm. There's
but I don't know.
Yeah, and so the other art that was in the house was like, for example, they had like a burning church, and like you would think that this art is specifically commissioned from like people who are sort of like anti-religion or whatever, like some form of that. But it was actually like a French painting from like the 1800s, and so like they just have like a bunch of like collected paintings that
That's
are
awesome.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was really surprised that they had like Salvador Dali paintings there, and some of those things were for sale, but the Salvador Dali ones and the other ones weren't, for obviously, because it's like millions of dollars probably. I don't know, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And so the Satanic Church is a thing, and we are sponsored.
Another Fall
Fall
Out
Out
Boy
Boy.
song name.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. Thank you all. So let's get on with today's topic. I think this band doesn't really need any form of introduction. For everyone who's like listening, all two viewers. But and I think it's just because they're so fucking popular. You know, I I really debated whether or not I should do this episode, because I was like, it's not really sus.
You like Fall Out Boy? Stop defending it. It's or like anti-defending it, attacking yourself.
Offending.
Just you like it. It's fine. This is the whole point. It's
No,
the whole point.
Yeah, no. I'm also thinking back to the idea of sussing something out, and so I every time I choose something, I always want to find something that I can dig a little bit deeper into. Like that, even if I know a lot about it, I can still suss out things about the topic I'm not super familiar with. Mm-hmm. And I definitely did that here, much to my chagrin, basically. But I would love initial impressions. So the sort of topic was Fall Out Boy. I think I was pretty vague and like asking people what to do, which I appreciate from myself, because that's a weird thing to say. But basically, I really wanted to have like
from myself is really funny.
Yeah, it's really funny. I wanted to cast a wide net, because there's like a lot of history to the band. There's a lot of music that the band put out. So, what did people listen to?
Yeah, let's go over what we are basing our opinions on this episode on first, like what we actually listened to.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. So the idea was like you could just find an album that you wanted to talk about, whether positive or negative, suss it out. We ended up choosing songs from God, I'm looking for them now just so I have all the names. But we ended up choosing specific songs from specific albums, which we can reference or not reference, but I definitely think like talking about the albums we chose would be a good idea.
Go first, Manny. Kick it off.
I'm hitting it. So I chose to like mainly focus on Infinity on High. And Infinity on High is their 2007 album. It's, in my opinion, like one of the most satisfying early Fall Out Boy albums. It sort of like takes what they were doing at the beginning of their major label success and like elaborates on it in a very musically focused way. But yeah, and I chose a couple of songs. I chose like the opener, which has Jay-Z introducing
that was
the track.
Wild.
I
thought it was a sample.
Lot of questions about that.
Oh, really?
I thought it was a sample until at the end he said FOB, and it's like, oh shit, he actually recorded this.
Or they pulled a George Lucas and they just like found him saying those letters twice into a thing.
I love that idea, Alexi. I want that to be true.
I want that to be so true that they love Jay-Z way more than Jay-Z cares about them.
Yeah, and I'll talk about why Jay-Z's there and stuff a little bit later. It's a really weird history with the band, but and then I chose Golden, which is like their as far as I know, their only like fully solo piano song that they have. And then I chose the last track off the album because I feel like it's a good sort of capitulation of what they were doing. And the title of this is I've Got All This Ringing in My Ears and I believe None on My Finger. Let me find the last words for that.
Doesn't make any fucking
None
sense.
in my
Their titles
fingers.
have always been fucking
Yeah.
bonkers.
Well, I mean, like they all have meanings in some way, and there's like lyricism is another thing that we could talk about, but it's real strange. Strange in like the early emo pop punk emo scene strange, which is as you know, like we love our long ass titles. Our cryptic...
Overwriting is a very big symptom of these bands. Creating these like big ideas in the fucking title of the song.
Yeah, and that happens everywhere. It happens in like early deathcore and metalcore. It happens here in like the emo and pop punk spaces. Shout out to like all of the emo revival bands and their names, because that's basically the vibe. But I like them, so you know.
To
but
be
yeah,
fair, The World Is a Beautiful Place is the only one that like really has a obnoxiously long name. The rest are just kind of either portmanteaus or things like that, things of that sort.
Yeah, that's fair. I was specifically thinking about that band, so yeah. But yeah, so I chose Infinity on High. Personally, it's one of my favorite albums for reasons I'll talk about later. Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Andres? Oh, go, Alexi. No, go, Alexi. I know you love talking.
I picked the album Save Rock and Roll. I remember I bought it on a whim randomly. Like I'm notoriously terrible at listening to music, and I just was when it came out, I was like, I'm gonna listen to this whole album, and I liked it, which I was like, great. It's decently fun. There's definitely a low point of the album in my opinion, which is good to be like, and here's where I don't like, and it's like okay to like I don't feel bad or like feel like I'm forcing that. I definitely have strong likes and a strong dislike of certain parts of this album.
Yeah, and the songs you chose were The Phoenix, Save Rock and Roll, and then the one...
And then my low point is The Mighty Fall, I think, is which I picked. Yeah.
Is that the one with Big Sean on it?
That's the one with Big Sean.
Hey. Yeah, that's also a weird thing about the trajectory of the band. But I think I'm really glad you chose Save Rock and Roll because it seems like right in your sweet spot for like.
It's fun for me.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. It seems it's a really odd, interesting like turn that they took after their hiatus that that I feel sits in like a place that speaks to like pop, like avid pop fans who also like a little bit of this or that. Yeah. Andres, hit us.
All right. I didn't really know what to do with Fall Out Boy, so I just referenced. I listened to 2 albums. I did my homework.
Damn.
I did extra credit. I listened to From Under the Cork Tree because that was the album that I only really knew the songs from, or the singles, because we grew up in that era where they were just blowing up. And I remember, I'll get into it probably a little bit later, but I remember seeing Dance Dance like every goddamn day on VH1 when I'd watch music videos.
Oh, damn.
And I also listened to Take This to Your Grave. I chose that one because the emo bands I follow that are in the scene now, typically when they say they're fans of Fall Out Boy, point to that album. So I figured I was just kind of curious of how it might relate to those bands' music, and what I discovered is that it kind of doesn't, but
Yeah.
but that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of it, right? Sussing it out. That's the name of the game, baby.
Sure
Yeah,
is.
both of those.
I like the idea of Andres' bands being like, what do you like about this album? Oh, I hate it. That's why it's inspiration me. I never want to make anything like this in my life.
No, they actually love it.
I know,
though.
it's a bit.
I love that
Shout
idea.
Shout out to the lead singer of the band For Your Health. I legitimately do not understand I do and don't understand the Fall Out Boy connection to their music, but it's bizarre.
Yeah, that's
other-
go ahead.
The other day on Twitter, they put that the Fall Out Boy first album was on Spotify now, so too bad
Yep.
that music is over. That they're not going to listen to anything else. And it was like, damn,
Whoa.
this really runs deep.
That's also a very strong take, but I appreciate that. Both of the albums you listen to are very important in different ways. Like you already mentioned, the relevance that Take This to Your Grave has to like the emo scene, like the emo pop punk scene. It's very weird. And then of course, like From Under the Cork Tree is important because of this weird like pop spotlight on pop punk with like heavy metal guitar orchestration. Like it's very weird for the time, but I also think that that's part of the beauty of their music. But again, like Dance Dance and Sugar We're Going Down were like beaten to death on VH1 and MTV.
Yeah. And the songs I chose were, you could either listen to one of those, and the other two I chose were Saturday from Take This to Your Grave and Get Busy or Living or Get Busy Dying, Do Your Part to Save the Scene and Stop Going to Shows, I think is the parentheses part.
Yeah. Those are long titles. That's Pete Wentz for you.
Peter.
Peter. Yo, Peter.
Peter Wentz. Sucker the movie. That's Italian.
Yeah, but
did you guys listen? I listened to all the ones you guys recommended at least once.
Yeah. I've heard all of the music that you all recommend.
I'm no Fall Out Boy.
No, I listened to them again.
Yeah.
For the record, I have now listened to everything that Fall Out Boy has released, and I never thought I'd say that.
I was pulling up stuff on my album. I had no idea that for Save Rock and Roll, Fall Out Boy released a musical film, which is they made every single song on that album has a music video and is connected in a narrative.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
That makes a lot of sense based on how the album sounds.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing about their reemergence is that, like, I don't know, to me Save Rock and Roll is so odd because it's like them trying extremely hard to do like the pop thing, but they're still trying to hold on to their rock aesthetic. And when I found out that there was also like this musical like narrative and everything, and essentially a musical, I found it. They were still trying to be highly innovative while suddenly shifting away from things that were maybe more challenging to the primary musical audience at the time, and like going to the pop side. Because the sort of like musical video thing that happens, it's sort of reserved for like the artier albums of like big celebrities because of production value and stuff.
Big Sean.
Yeah.
Like Beyonce's Lemonade, for example,
Pink
has
Floyd, The Wall, stuff like
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was their attempt at doing this, and everything after their hiatus. So, Save Rock and Roll, American Beauty, American Psycho, and Mania. They all have, and those are the big albums that after their hiatus. They all have very particular ways of advertising behind them. Um, for example, Mania, which is the newest album that came out in like 2000, yeah, like really late. They had a fictional band uh, that they put out an EP
What?
under. Yeah, this fictional band was called Frosty and the Nightmare Making Machine.
Of course it was, first of all.
Yes. And it was an EP that they released under that name, and it was called La Mania, like llama, but mania.
So it was a Fortnite thing?
Oh God, I hope not. uh, but it had like three EPs that would later be demo that they were like unfinished demos from Mania that came out. But the way that they did this is
The
they
Mania experience.
yeah, they created like a website called the Mania Core, like Mania Corporation, that had like a bunch of cryptic stuff, and they were like doing
So they did like a big ARG for it.
basically, yeah, yeah, and that's just one example of how all these albums after they were like world famous basically started to unfold. Um,
I like this. I honestly think it's real cool
mhm.
to like just be like, okay, we can kind of fuck around and do this dumb stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like the whole point of getting big is to do nonsense. Sometimes I think people are afraid to try weird shit.
Hmm. And
This is even if it's
I'm
stupid.
glad they're trying weird shit outside of the music. The music ain't that weird.
no, and that's funny. That's like the funny thing about it is like the music. It's weird because it's like I guess this would be a good entry point into their history because their music now highlights their mentality back when they were starting. Um, so just some like preliminary background information about Fall Out Boy. So they're all from Chicago. They're all from the hardcore scene in the '90s in Chicago, in particular, which is like legendary in its own right. There's like a lot of really interesting hardcore music that came out of Chicago in the '90s and late '80s. Um, and so they were all the members of Fall Out Boy: Patrick Stump, Pete Wentz, Joe Troman, I think is his name, and Andy Hurley. All four of those folks were involved in the hardcore scene in like different bands. Um, they all were either like they were all playing instruments of some kind. I don't think anyone was singing in the hardcore groups or screaming, right? Like chanting, whatever hardcore does. And they ended up like they had a lot of projects going on, whether it was like metalcore, hardcore, all of these things, and they decided that they wanted to do like a pop punk project. Specifically,
I did some research at early or pre Fallout Boy, and Pete Wentz did end up singing in one of the bands he was in, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, Pete was doing like vocals for one of them. Was it the metal band that he was in, or
yeah, it was the metalcore one, the one with the lead singer to Rise Against on bass. I think.
Yeah, Rise Against is great, and that's like the really cool thing about like the music scene is like you see a bunch of recurring names all across different acts. But yeah, that band's name is Arma Angelus, I think.
Arma Angelus.
Or Angelus, like I'm not sure the correct pronunciation.
I'm so sad we didn't go see that is what was it again? It's Green Day, Weezer, and Fall Out Boy. They keep tour together.
Yeah.
I'm so sad we didn't go on to this.
Yeah. I was thinking about going. I've never seen them live, and
I've never seen any of those people live, and it would have been just so funny.
right,
I
it would have
think I
been
only
quite
would have
strange.
wanted to see Green Day high Q, but
You don't want to see Weezer?
I would sit through Weezer. I don't know if I'd want to see modern Weezer.
Well, that's how I
know.
feel. That's how I feel about Fall Out Boy. Like, I'm pretty sure they're not doing any of their old songs. Sure they're doing like their
I'm
singles.
sure they hit Dance Dance.
Yes,
And
Sugar We're Going
yeah.
Down. Maybe like
Yep.
Thanks for the
I
Memories.
think
Saving Rock and Roll is not getting any love. That's for
think
sure. Like there's 7 albums, they're not getting it.
I think maybe if they're playing anything from the first album, it's probably either Saturday or Dead on Arrival. But
Yeah,
I can't imagine them doing anything from Take This to Your Grave or their earlier album, which is like a.
oh, I really can't imagine them doing anything from that album. But
Do you think they do anything from Fall Out Boy's Evening Out with Your Girlfriend? Do you think they do anything from that EP?
No, that album. Let's talk about that album. So
That album has a great name. First of all,
yeah,
that's a phenomenal name.
I think this album is like their most quintessential pop punk album, and that's not a good thing in my opinion.
They say they don't like it.
Yeah, they all dislike it.
Recorded in 2 days, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah. If we're Wikipediaing things right now, it's pretty rushed. I just listened to it this morning because I wanted to be able to say I've listened to everything before starting this pod, and there are some songs that are bangers. Like there are a couple songs that are like, this is a great pop punk song, and then the rest of it feels very not. If it's pop punk, but it's really messy. It's like a very messy album. There's like a lot of like. Yeah.
I skimmed it yesterday, and it was definitely pretty rough.
There's a lot of like rhythmic disjunction between members of the band and stuff.
They're new, man.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Andy isn't on that album, or at least he didn't. I'm not sure if he recorded that album or not. I don't know.
This is a funny sentence. Andy's not on that album.
I don't remember. Don't quote me on that.
He's pretty important to the band, so
yeah, he's crucial to the band. Yeah, and he was on everything. Let me see. Let me fact check myself. It's not something that's hard to check.
There's some banging drums on "Take This to Your Grave."
Yeah. That's they note that Andy Hurley joining was basically the thing that locked their music into place. And so Patrick Stump, we know him for his vocals now, but he was drumming in the hardcore scene. Pete Wentz was like singing and bassing. And he was of course like drumming, and Joe was doing the guitar stuff. And so Patrick Stump going into vocals and was like something that they decided they wanted, because he was just like I think in their words, he was like a much better vocalist than he was a drummer. But he was also a good drummer too, from what I read. And so,
and I think we mentioned before, he's not the main lyricist. He's not the main songwriter.
Yeah. Well, so the dynamic is really interesting, and this ties into the point that we got tangented on. But so Pete Wentz is the lyricist. He's like, since the band's inception and continuing to this day, he is writing the majority of the lyrics, and for the earlier stuff, he's writing all of the lyrics. And so that's Pete Wentz's role. He's like bassist and lyricist, and screamer when he's doing certain screams on certain songs. And Pete Wentz, his job is purely musical. He's like just singing and writing. He's like the primary composer for the band up until Folie à Deux, which is the album before their hiatus with like the bear on the cover.
And they just went on hiatus because
so
they having issues as a band.
This is a long, convoluted
some
story.
People had like, I don't want to do this too long. I don't have that much as I learned about. I know there was like some drug. I was doing some reading earlier. Pete Wentz had some like drug issues. I know like a suicide attempt happened with him. I know Patrick Stump's like just a white dude.
Yeah.
And like it's this band, it stretches like a pretty long time. As
Yeah.
much as it's to say
20
there's
years.
a lot that happened.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I have another question because I only look into things that I click into things that interest me. How many times have they had like people leave the band? Like, is that original core group consistent for at least an album or two, or is it like?
Yeah, so the core group of 4 folks, which is Andy Hurley, Joe Trollman, Patrick Stump, and Pete Wentz, they have all been core members of the band since Take This to Your Grave. That is the core group, and they've never changed, to my understanding. That's been them the entire way through. They did have different members of the band up until Take This to Your Grave. So since 2003, it's been the same 4 people. Now, as you can imagine, that gets pretty rough. They're like 3 original albums, Take This to Your Grave, or full major label albums or whatever. Just Take This to Your Grave, From Under the Cork Tree, Infinity on High, and Folie à Deux. Those 4. They all have a lot of... they have different relationships to who's doing the songwriting and how members feel about the album. Infinity on High, which is my favorite, was sort of like a Pete Wentz and Patrick Stump like album creation, and Andy and Joe didn't have a lot of say. They were just like musicians, and that like caused a lot of stress on the band. So much so that
weird.
Yeah, so much so that when Folie à Deux came out, or when they were working on it, Andy like approached them. I think it was Andy. Might be Joe. I don't know. Yeah, it was Joe Trollman. Joe Trollman had a conversation with Patrick Stump and was like, "Hey, this does not make me feel like I'm doing anything for the band except I'm like a studio musician. Like I feel like I have no ownership over the album that we just made.
I'm just a tool."
Yeah, and so yeah, it was
kind of a tangent. We had that in my senior project.
Oof.
Like, it was a part where I was just like, how, like, are you doing? He's like, I don't know at all why I'm here. None of the things I do, man. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. So, like, I mean, and I felt that multiple times towards the end, for sure. Once, like, things left and COVID changed a lot of stuff. So, I that feeling, I imagine it's very common. And if you wonder, like, oh, but, like, how'd you let that happen? It's like, it very easily, it can happen.
It's it happens super easily, and you can imagine like when there's so much money involved, so much publicity and pressure, it makes it like extremely bad. And so
let's experiment a little. No, because like we can't risk you experiment. I can risk this. We can take my risk. We can't take your risk. We only have so much time. The album needs to get done next month, and like I don't want to waste a day doing it. It's like, when you're not wasting, we're being the band still. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah,
and so that was problematic up until that was problematic from like building up from Take This to Your Grave up until Folie à Deux. And Folie à Deux was sort of like everyone got way more musical agency over the album, and I think that actually makes it a pretty strong album because the guitar parts, while not being as like traditionally Fall Out Boy, are still very creative and inventive and fun. It's like very riff oriented, which seems like a nice shift away from what they were doing in like some of Infinity on High and stuff. But either way, so like that's the dynamic of the band, and they've always wanted to be rock stars. Like that's like the MO. And so you can imagine when rock left the public eye. From music, they were like, we need to make a change. We need to do something. And during the hiatus, like the members of the band started doing a lot of different things. Um, Andy and Joe started doing this project called Them Crooked Vultures, which is like a
Oh
You know the
yeah.
Crooked Vultures.
Hi, everyone. Quick editor's note here. I mixed up two different supergroups, and I just wanted to clarify that. Them Crooked Vultures, which is the band I mentioned, has Josh Homme, who is part of Queen of the Stone Age, John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, Dave Grohl, who's in Foo Fighters and was in Nirvana, and a Chilean guitarist by the name of Elaine Johannes for live performances. That's the band I said, but the band I meant to reference was the Damn Things, which is a different supergroup that has Fall Out Boy's Joe Troman and Andy Hurley, Anthrax's Scott Ian, Every Time I Die's Keith Buckley, and Alkaline Trio's Dan Andriano. Yeah, so I just wanted to clear that up for you. They're both great supergroups, but the Damn Things is the supergroup that Joe and Andy are a part of. All right, back to the show.
yeah, yeah. That's like a different vibe and a little bit harder and not very poppy, but pretty fun.
Yeah.
Pete Wentz did a lot of solo stuff. He has this album called Soul Punk, which highlights the intersection of like all of his sort of musical interests. The thing about, or sorry, not Pete Wentz, Patrick Stump. If I said Pete Wentz, I meant Patrick. But Patrick Stump had a
I think I
his music.
remember seeing that in stores now that I think about it.
Yeah, it was in stores for a little bit. It's interesting because like Patrick's musical influences have always been like classic soul, classic R&B, but like his music scene has always been rock. And I think that that's why like you get such extravagant vocal melismas in some of the songs from like the earlier Fall Out Boy albums where he's just doing like these runs like at the ends of phrases and stuff. Um, but either way, like oh, and a little bit of like weird pop punk history. Like there are a lot of covers that Patrick Stump did of songs on acoustic guitar that like circulated the internet in the early 2000s. There's like a cover of Ignition remix that he does.
Yeah. I know that song.
There's like a cover of Heartless that they did by Kanye West. So there's like a lot of R&B, hip hop, like soul influence, and that came to fruition in his like solo album Soul Punk, which came out during the hiatus. And it's like if Michael Jackson met like new Fall Out Boy, sort of what it is.
They have like they covered Beat It,
And
and it's not that bad.
No,
Definitely not.
it's
not bad, but
it's like a standard cover of Beat It, basically.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a cover that you would encounter at like a good band cover.
yeah,
bar
they
night
did.
or something.
They do a decent job, and I was like, okay, Fall Out like.
Yeah, and all of this I think culminated in like the way that they moved past the hiatus stage and back into like the musical stage. They started having co-writers. They started doing the production thing way, way, way more heavy than they did while they were doing the rock musician thing. Yeah, so their musical interests have always been out there, and I think that that's why we get the Fall Out Boy we have now, which is like they're still trying to stay relevant. They're doing like big collaborations still. They're essentially pop, like full pop with like some guitars thrown in here and there.
It's a very weird thing because I was listening to some people talk about it, and this one guy I was talking about how he only listens to country music now, like because rock is no longer in the public eye as it used to be. It's not like the big thing to be a rock star. So some music artists will release a country album or two, and then after they get commercial success, transition to rock music.
That's interesting.
And it's a very weird thing. I never understood it. And now at work, there's a guy who will play country music, and it sounds exactly like pop music sometimes. Like exactly the same, just with an acoustic guitar
Yep.
thrown on top of it.
Yes.
Exactly the same thing, same messages, same, it's all the same thing. So it is kind of a thing of, like, they have all these weird side projects. They do this weird music album movie for Save Rock and Roll. They do an ARG. It seems to be like they are making music, and I hope they like it. I hope they are enjoying the process of making music and just trying to be experimental, but also fully understanding that, like, to be successful and to have as much fun as we want to have fun, we do need to kind of appeal to the pop world. And I don't think it's I don't personally think it's a bad thing. I understand it's like you have to play the system, etc., etc.
They from what I understand, they like the music.
Like it.
They
seem
like
to
the
love
music
it.
they make.
I don't think they're like, in contrast to maybe the people who are like, I'm gonna go do country because I that's gonna be a vehicle to what I want to be eventually. It seems to be that they started it weird and rough, and like as all bands do, had this hiatus, which led to good things for them.
A lot of projects,
right?
yeah.
Great for them. And then they continue to just be successful and kind of, I got my sweater wet. Kind of just really are doing well. I really admire this band for that. Like, they're kind of staying true to themselves, even if it's not as much as it, like, it's not punk anymore. Like, they're doing cool shit. I like it, but I'm also like super into pop music, so maybe I'm different from you too about this.
Well, I would agree. I think I like the music. I don't like all of it, but
I don't like all of it.
But I generally have like good things to say about every album. Some albums less good things than others, but still. I think the really interesting thing is, like, they've started compartmentalizing more, such that, like, they released an EP called Pax Amdays, and it's all 1.5 minute songs that are like not thrash punk, but
grindcore?
Like it's not grindcore.
It's a grindcore project.
Grindcore. Usually you only play at a wedding.
But it came out I think after Save Rock and Roll.
So they kind of were like, I have this energy, let's just direct that energy to this. Now let's do that. Like, that's cool. That's smart, honestly, for creative projects.
And it's pretty punkish and it's fun.
I don't know if I could do that, like, as a person, just to kind of, sometimes you're just like, I'm going to really dedicate this month to playing guitar. Me doing that would make me want to do anything but play guitar for that month. Like, that's so maybe it's because it's a group and they're like, hey, like, I know you wrote this song, and these lyrics work really well. We're gonna do that after, and like being okay with that.
Have you ever gotten into a position where, like, you're really fixated on something for like 5 or 6 months, and you're like,
yes,
I cannot get out? I feel like that's what happens in the creative process for some folks, where like,
yeah. But then I guess it's like, what if that 6 months is in the middle of this other project?
That happens a lot. I hate that shit.
And it's just like, I don't want to do, like, I guess it's so impressive for me to see that, because I've never been in, like, this is the most group creative project I've ever done with you two. And it works because it's not creating music, it's creating conversation and like listening to things I don't want to, like,
it's in your wheelhouse,
usually listen to. Doing that, and that's different and fun and probably really healthy for all of us. But I'm wondering how much that happens, of like, these 6 months I'm really into classical trombone. It's like, well, we're doing a punk album, so you need to calm the fuck down. Like, we can do that at the end of this album. And it's like, okay. And then the end of the album comes and it's just like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like it's hard. It's like code switching, sort of. Like,
what's that?
Code switching is sort of like needing to change your language based on the social environment you're in.
Oh, I do that shit all the time. It's just weird.
And like that mental flip that you have to do, that happens a lot for me being still in school and stuff. It's real uncomfortable.
Professional life, family, and friends. Like, those are the four. Like, apparently it's very, very common to apparently have like kind of different personalities for different languages you're speaking. Like, I'm definitely not a person who's trying to be funny when I'm speaking Spanish. I'm just trying to sound like I know what the fuck I'm saying. Like I'm not really trying to make jokes. It's so hard for me because I'm not comfortable in my Spanish. And I feel that, like, ever since I read that, like, article, it's just like Spanish Alexei is a different person than an English Alexei.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing a lot of talking about the band, which I would rather. I mean, I think what will be interesting is like if we talk about what we listened to or what we liked, what we didn't like. These things will come out naturally. So, hit me with your thoughts about like what you listened to. I am open to everything because I have a lot of thoughts about like every album, and they're all very weird in their own ways. So,
Andres, do you want to go a certain direction? Do you want me to try steering this ship?
I'll do it since I don't think I've talked in like the past 30 minutes. I'll start with my relationship to Fall Out Boy previous to this episode, I guess. I definitely didn't like Fall Out Boy very much at all.
Did you dislike them or you just didn't like them? That's two different sentences.
Well,
right? Like, because like I definitely didn't. I liked songs, but I definitely never. Like in middle school, everyone fucking. I remember we knew a lot of people who were just like, dude, and I didn't. I've never even looked at like some of the album art. Like I just for the first time looked at what From Under the Cork Tree is.
Yeah.
I had no idea what it was, and then I remember tons of people wearing the Infinity Gun High shirt, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Audrey. I'm sorry.
Well, I did. The most I'll say I didn't know because all I had heard is Dance Dance. I do remember, what's it called? The third single that nobody thinks about, From Under the Cork Tree. A little less 16 Candles, a little more Touch Me. I had heard that song. I did like Sugar We're Going Down, but the rest of and I had also heard Thanks for the Memories, I believe.
Thanks for Memories.
And I don't know, man. Like, I didn't know enough to really say I disliked them. I just didn't really like any of the singles I had heard except Sugar We're Going Down, and I didn't particularly feel a type of way, but then Forced Exposure just kept really throwing those songs in my face, and I just grew a pretty big distaste towards them.
Yeah. That's actually I feel that way about most of their singles. Like they're some of my least favorite songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sugar We're Going Down definitely I don't enjoy anymore.
Yeah.
Dance also, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Do we hate Fall Out Boy?
This is an anti-Fall Out Boy podcast.
Pro Satan, anti-Fall.
Just kidding.
So when when the proposal for this episode came, I was definitely iffy on what I was gonna find. And what I found is that I don't really particularly like Fall Out Boy still, if I'm being honest. I like Take This to Your Grave. I don't love it. It's so pop punk. And even I said I was going to talk a little bit about Green Day when I talk about Fall Out Boy. I'm probably going to reference Weezer and Green Day a lot.
Dude, they should go on tour together.
Wow, yeah, they should. That'd be a great idea.
Yeah. My relationship with Green Day is I love the first 5. I've really only listened to Dookie, Insomniac, and Nimrod, and I love those albums. And then American Idiot I loved as a kid, but when I listen back to it now, I struggle, except with probably Jesus of Suburbia and Letterbomb. Like, I still love those songs, but the rest of it, I get that like kind of cringy feeling every time I hear it, and I'm able to work through it, but whatever. Going into Fall Out Boy, I had that cringy feeling like from every single point, basically. So every song would start off with that feeling, and then sometimes by the end they would win me over, sometimes they wouldn't, but every time I'd listen to a song it would start with that feeling. So
how much of it do you think of that feeling at the beginning do you think is from like historical points of reference, like to your relationship with the band, and how much of it do you think is like the actual music?
I don't know. I think from my feelings towards From Under the Cork Tree have a lot to do with my history of feelings towards the band, because I mean I can talk more about my takes on From Under the Cork Tree after this, but there's just a lot of very similar threads in all the songs, and I think I can't really separate that from my feelings from the past. Honestly, take this to your grave, I think I am able to separate them a little more, and my feelings just kind of are based more on the music, because there are some threads between the two albums, but they're kind of different. They're
pretty different.
They're not super sonically similar outside of the obvious hardcore and metalcore influence in the guitars.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think where I struggled with Take This to Your Grave was definitely the super shiny pop vocals in a lot of the songs, and it just comes off as harsh to me a lot of the time. And then by the end I'd get used to it, and maybe it's just Patrick Stump reaching the pocket or whatever, but I suffice it to say, by the end of these 2 weeks, I don't know if I can handle listening to Patrick Stump's voice anymore. Nothing against his like personal vocal abilities or whatever. He's a great singer, but I don't know if I can handle it anymore.
Yeah.
What did we say the other day, Manny? Sometimes we were talking about it the other day, and I think I said the lyrics of Fall Out Boy, I know they fully mean, but sometimes they just feel really like disingenuous.
Yeah.
Or like they come from like a place of like not I don't know, just that's kind of how it felt. Like I tried making an analogy, and I don't think it's a good one, but I'm bringing it up again, of like a rich white teen talking about how classism is bad, and it's like, yes, like your ideas and your motives are real, but like from you it just doesn't ring as true to me for some reason.
Shout out.
Is that kind of what you're saying, Andres, or no?
Not entirely.
Damn, wrong turn, Alexi.
I did have that feeling towards I'm not really talking about lyrics, because my take towards the lyrics in From Under the Cork Tree kind of runs in that vicinity, but there really isn't anything they're singing about that I can't believe they were going through. I mean, because half of From Under the Cork Tree is just talking about girl problems, and it's like, sure, whatever, man. Like, I could kind of care less. And bringing up Weezer, I feel like the trajectory between Weezer obviously has the Blue Album, which everybody loves, and then Pinkerton, which is the weird, deep, personal project that kind of kept them from being mega stars for a little bit. I feel like Fall Out Boy kind of learned from that and looked at that and said, we're not going to do that. And there's like one or two pretty personal songs on From Under the Cork Tree. One of them fucking sounds like the Counting Crows.
Yep.
And the rest just kind of feel like, well, there's a couple that are obviously Pete Wentz dealing with how his friends in the old scene look at them now, and that's why I recommended Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying, because that very much feels like the culmination of everything and kind of becomes what the album is directly or indirectly about, is them quote unquote selling out, even though you could argue that Take This to Your Grave is the point where they sold out, whatever. But it definitely feels like a direct, I think at one point in the spoken word part at the end, he even says, we didn't want to stay in this, or do you think we wanted to stay in this scene, or something like that. He definitely outwardly says, like, the goal was to be bigger, and it comes across that way. And I say indirectly because a lot of the lyrics on the rest of the songs feel like nothing to me. And if you dig in too deep, the one parallel that does run with Pinkerton is it feels like something very, very much an incel or somebody would be like, yeah, fuck those women. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I like Fall Out Boy still. Honestly, the songs you recommended from Infinity on High were pretty incredible to me. Like those, I was like, God damn, I should have listened to this album after I heard those.
It's I think Infinity on High is my favorite, specifically because there's so much more diversity than From Under the Cork Tree, but it's still touching all of the previous points of their past in certain ways. The lyrics thing is a real big problem for me. Not what you said, but the lyrics in general. Because like lyrically, it's designed to be vague, but
that's the pop formula.
Yeah, exactly. It's designed to be vague because so audience members can associate however they want, but it has hyper-specific references in like certain lines of certain songs. And that leaves it feeling really weird. Some songs from like...
Interesting.
Yeah, some songs from... Well, most songs from Infinity on High are less so like this than From Under the Cork Tree.
Yeah, I was looking at... I didn't get a chance to look at the lyrics from Take This to Your Grave, but the Infinity on High lyrics from the songs you recommended seemed to really find a nice point where they're vague, but you can kind of see where they're coming from when they're writing it.
Yeah.
From Under the Cork Tree definitely falls into that trap that you're saying.
Yeah, I pulled up the Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying. I'm just gonna call it that because I don't want to do the parenthetical.
Why not?
Because I don't know it.
I think it goes kill the scene or some shit.
Kill your family.
Jesus, we can get sued.
I would be so honored if they would sue me.
Jeez, kids, can you lighten up a little? No, that's not a good Marge impression. That's really bad.
But I pulled up the lyrics from the song you recommended, and Yeah, like the spoken screamed part at the end. I think it's all spoken.
The part
By
at the
Jay-Z.
very end is spoken. There's, I think, a small screaming part, but
Yeah. And so like that spoken section is super like it's a mixture of like the sad poetics that Pete Wentz loves embodying, and also reference to like the scene. Um the Yeah, like here it's like this has been said so many times that I'm not sure if it matters, but it must be said again that all us boys are just screaming into microphones for attention
That
because
part, and I was listening to, my eyes were like audibly being rolled. They were just like, come on. Like, I get it. This is meta, kind of, but again, it feels like
yeah.
nothing.
Well,
It feels like soda that's ice has watered down its flavor.
I think a really good point of comparison is Shut Up the Punks from Scrambles, because like
Mm-hmm.
here we're both getting commentary on scenes, and Scrambles lyricism is hyper detailed. It's like hyper fixations on a personal lived experience for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. At least that's how I interpreted most of it. And here we're getting something that is like that commentary from that level, but put into a popular music perspective, like pop lyric perspective, and that
Mm.
it does feel weird. And when you compare, so like Andres and I both love lots and lots of emo stuff, and when you
I
compare
like My
the
Chemical Romance.
yeah, I like even My
I
Chemical Romance is a good point of reference here too.
I was gonna say, because I had I think it was either last year or 2 years ago. I had never listened to My Chemical Romance before, but I'd heard so much
Mm.
about it. So I kind of went into this episode with like the same expectations of I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I'll try it. And when
Mm.
I did it with My Chem, I listened to Black Parade and it was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty incredible. Like
Yep.
I've
they're
Yeah.
cried so many times listening
It's
to
a
Black Parade.
it's a good album.
Like that
Musically,
thing.
lyrically, it's
they're
intense.
they're exploring a lot with this and being really
I
ambitious. And in a way, Fall Out Boy is also being ambitious, but in a completely different way. Like there's
It's less of. Go ahead.
there's just a lack of something in Fall Out Boy that
Black.
It's
It's missing like a body. Like it's missing a substance. I don't know like how else to say it, but like when you're eating something and like something is just missing, like just a bit of an oomph.
Well,
And that's how I feel sometimes. But other times the songs hit in that perfect way I need them to hit, because I don't need these deep emotions sometimes in songs. I just need a feeling, an energy, and like from Save Rock and Roll, I get that energy pretty constantly of just like I need to get moving. This song's make me want to move. But if I ever want to be like, I need to really reflect about something in my life, I'm never going to go to Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a mean thing to say. I don't think they,
there's the point you're drawing is, I think, a great example. Like they're trying to meet in the middle of those two things, and because of it, it feels like it's harder to archetype it. It's harder to place an image on it. Where it's like it is the like emo, like the self-reflect, self-pity, like self-woe album, or is it like the pop oriented, high energy, like almost happy emotion consistently type of album? And and it never meets in the middle, or it never satisfies either one of those really great, because it's always trying to meet in the middle.
yeah.
I
That's really a really good way of saying this. It's
'cause-
not able to accomplish either one because it's trying to be both.
Yeah, I think what it does is it tries. I think this is sort of the project for early Fall Out Boy, leaving Take This to Your Grave, is it feels like they're always trying to find a blend between like a single, like a
Which-
popular song, and like
Maybe
this.
that's a
deep
cool
thing.
place for I kind of need it, right? Like there does need to be bridges that lead. Oh, like I remember, me as a kid, I never really liked listening to what my parents listening to when it came to like Mexican music and like mariachi. I did like funk and like disco and stuff, but when there was like, oh, Linkin Park came on, I was like, oh, what is this? And like that led to eventually my music taste being expanded and me being comfortable living in this like pop punk guitar focus things like this area of music. And I've crossed that bridge, and now my destination isn't really near the bridge anymore, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, that happens.
I started here, and that's kind of what followed. Sometimes I like to go back and visit. I think Thanks for Memories has consistently been in some form of my music library for a long time because I like that song. It really does good for me, but not all of the fall. I don't like. I have Dance Dance, and I'll hear it, and I'll get that past that intro, and then I'll just skip the song because I don't want to hear it anymore because it just doesn't do it for me anymore.
Yeah.
But at the time, growing up, they were the bridge that I needed to cross. I wanted to cross.
Yeah. Every time I hear Dance Dance, I almost never make it to the last phrase of the song. I'm always cutting off after the first chorus, honestly. I don't do that with a lot of songs, except for the songs that I just don't need to hear. Like my ear is just like, no, enough of that. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, and I think yeah, for me, I struggled deciding whether or not I should study, quote unquote study, or dig more into Infinity on High or Folie à Deux, because to me it seems like Folie à Deux finally reaches that point where they're making like songs that are pop level with pop production with all of these things, while still having like a song that has like interesting musical writing and also tries to be pretty nuanced with its language in the lyrics. So I was debating on whether or not to do that or Infinity on High, and I chose Infinity on High, one because I think the album, there's more to the album in general, but two, it's more musically interesting, and I think I've always been more of like a instrumental oriented person and not really like a lyrics oriented person. So
my eyes were definitely starting to glaze over every time I'd put From Under the Cork Tree on after like the third lesson.
Yeah, the From Under the Cork Tree, like, there's too much similarity between some of the writing in the album that it starts to feel like each song loses its own identity.
Yeah.
Infinity on High doesn't really have that problem, or at least it doesn't have the problem as much. It definitely has the problem, but just not as much, because there's like a song on there called Bang the Doldrums that was written for like Shrek 2 that never got used. Yeah. And it's like a sea shanty style chorus with like sort of like the swing.
Yeah, that's Irish drinks actually. It's not that.
Well, it's Irish then. I don't know, something like that.
No, I was doing the drinking song from the end of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, Heidi.
Yeah, I like that. I would say it's a mix. It's a cross between those two, but there are a lot of songs like that. The production gets expanded in Infinity on High, where you don't have just like metal instrumentation. Suddenly you have like samples being thrown in. You have like multi-layered guitar part writing, which wasn't really happening as much in From Under the Cork Tree. And yeah, for example, the last song on the album has like MIDI brass sections playing in the intro and stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a weird sentence.
Yeah, it's like the synthetic instruments on like musical software, but it's like playing like sort of like a funk. It's not funky. It's like a show tunesy, like poppy brass line. But yeah, like there's a lot more expanding musical expanse than From Under the Cork Tree. I think like From Under the Cork Tree is great if you're in like the mid 2000s. And
maybe
like,
this is why Andres doesn't like him as much, because to go back to my analogy of the bridge, Andres has crossed this bridge a long time ago.
yeah, that happens.
So now it's just kind of like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
So I was listening to Save Rock and Roll, and it was a pretty good album in my opinion. And the fact that it's fun and ridiculous, it has a low point of Big Sean, where he kind of just says like generic "I'm a cool rapper" things, and that's it. He doesn't really do anything important. I don't think he was necessarily there to be there.
He was there for the
really,
feature.
Huh?
Honestly, Big Sean wasn't my least favorite part of that song, but
There's the whole song's bad, but like Big Sean's not there. I don't like that song. I think we talked about a little bit. There's a lot of this weird like, and they kind of like just he keeps like singing and like screaming and like There's another song from American Psycho. I think it's Immortal. And
Yeah.
he just kind of keeps saying like, he keeps just like scream. I don't know if that's the right term for it, scream singing, but like just for like too long. Like there's, if it's like once or twice for like good emphasis, I think it's really appropriate. But if it's like 7 times back to back and that's the core of the song, it doesn't really mean anything to me. And there's a lot of that in this album at times.
Yeah.
But I think there's very, this is again from the least knowledgeable music person in this podcast, complex music things that happen here with like violins and like weird like progressions that just make it really fun and interesting. So I really did enjoy this album. Save Rock and Roll is a weird part of the album where it kind of becomes like this like ending opera type situation with Elton John. I like it. I think it's really cool. I think Phoenix does a really good job showing like how the album's gonna be.
Yeah,
but there's a few other ones like Young Volcanoes and even Rat-a-Tat-Tat that do like a good job of showing like, here's this like aggressive energy for no real reason. I guess it's like, we haven't been together in a long time. Let's make this album. Let's fucking make an album. And I like it. I really did enjoy it. I don't know how you guys like the songs. I think that put a spin on you guys didn't like the song. I'm just asking. I don't know how you like the song. So
touching on like the energy thing, I think Phoenix lyrically also captures their intent, right? It's sort of like it's literally them like, here's an entirely new sound for our band, and we're just hitting all of that sound really hard the entire time.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm here for it, honestly. Like that's again, I like to stay in that general zone for the most part. Yeah. Anders, did you listen to him? You said you did, right?
Yeah, I listened to all the ones you guys sent. When I first heard them, I definitely thought, are Andy and Joe even on this song? Like,
I've had that thought so many times.
What do you guys mean?
I literally couldn't. There wasn't part of me that hearing this music, or I'll say the instrumentation, that could hear a guitar or pay attention to the drums. Yeah. And when I did pay attention to the drums, it was very stripped back and sounded electronic. So it was like, is Andy even there? Because there's some pretty heavy, like, metal-ish. Well, I'm pretty sure Andy is more in hardcore bands, but there's some pretty heavy drumming in the first 2 albums. So it was kind of bizarre to go from that to hear, like, what sounded almost like a canned drum beat or drum rhythm, like just a dance, like
yeah, that they were involved, both of them. the idea,
Your Honor, they were involved in this murder.
The idea behind it is like they're like the new shift, their entire genre shift is also affecting the way that each member interacts with the band.
Interesting.
So like they went from being like acoustic drummer and guitarist to like doing drum parts and also playing those drum parts live, but doing the drum parts for the album and doing more music production-y things. Um, which comes is sort of just the nature of the game when it comes to like pop music.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of what happened to New Order, right? Like they're entirely acoustic before, and then something inspired them to all get drum machines, and arguably one of the best like drummers is just like hitting the pads instead of somebody with already strangely mechanical like precision is just went to fucking drum machine.
They do say things like you guys mentioned, some people were on I get the names, Andy and Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The drummer and the lead guitarist.
They were saying like, I don't feel like I'm involved in this band, and now like here's this new energy, and it's like I'm barely involved again. Like,
I think it's different. I think everyone came to after the hiatus. I think everyone came together and were like, we want to keep Fall Out Boy going. What are we going to do? And I think that shift changed because from what I understand, Folie à Deux was the first time where everyone got really involved with the writing of each song, and they all had a great experience. So I think the burnout from Folie, I mean, they experienced burnout just by touring and doing the rock star thing for a while, or like the pop rock star, and so the hiatus was like a welcome break from like any and all Fall Out Boy activities. And I think that allowed for them to be more comfortable with reimagining the band's
I don't know why persona. The way you said Fall Out Boy activities just felt like Black Air Force One activity, like, just like these Fall Out Boy activities.
Yeah, but I see what you mean. It's sort of like it's definitely a byproduct of their situation. But that doesn't mean that doesn't feel weird, you know, like.
Yeah, it definitely feels. And again, I enjoyed this album. There definitely is weirdness to it, but I found it fun, and that's about all I care about sometimes. Especially, again, I go to this album for that bridge of pop and other music, and that's what it does for me. It does a good job there.
Yeah.
Is it as bad as the American Psycho album, where I believe it goes a bit too far into this weird hybrid thing? I don't like that album, honestly. I think it kind of, it becomes like not a charade, but like a joke on itself. Maybe even, where it's just kind of like, let's see how far we can go, and then I don't know. And I haven't heard Mania, so I don't know if they went deeper or they went further back or blah 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 blah. And again, they like it. Good for them, right?
Yeah, I can give a breakdown of the last two albums. So, to me, like, Save Rock and Roll is them with their new sound hitting, like, the pop, the electronic, and the rock in a way that, like, places the rock lower than the other two and really focuses on the pop. And it feels like a mesh of just like high energy everything. Like there's a lot of like music production stuff happening. It's very intense. One of the co-writers of Folie à Deux was like the co-writer for the entirety of Save Rock and Roll. So that sort of like signifies the shift between like someone who still works for. I'm not sure if either of you listen to Folie à Deux or not.
I don't think I have.
So it's the album is, it's like Infinity on High, but like so it's rock oriented, but like a little more traditional rock instrumentation.
Yeah, I was gonna say I skimmed it a little bit, and it seemed like the production was almost like a little rougher than some of the
It is the
songs I
album
had
before
heard.
the hiatus.
It seemed pretty interesting production. I'm not sure about the songwriting because I didn't listen to any of the songs, but
Yeah, the production is like intentionally meant to be more to still fit into the rock aesthetic, but have it be like I Don't Care is like sort of electric-y. I don't care is the single off the album, and it is basically like chorus after chorus after chorus of like chant rock. And there's like some bluesy parts, but it's like high energy, high octane, and it sounds a lot like if you took the guitars out of I Don't Care and placed like electronics in it, it sounds a lot like what you get in Save Rock and Roll.
I'm in.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of similarities between the two, where like you can slowly feel them drifting more and more into the pop sphere with every album that comes out.
yeah, I could definitely feel that from the two albums I listened to.
Yeah, and so it's pretty. Save Rock and Roll to me is just like that high octane feeling that you get in songs like I Don't Care and whatever other songs from Folio do, but um, specifically within the context of like electronic pop music. And then American Psycho like has them return back to like the rock roots a little bit more heavily, and you start to get this uncanny valley between like the chorus has like, for example, Uma Thurman. I'm not sure if either of you have heard that.
Yeah, I know Uma Thurman. I don't like Uma Thurman, but I know Uma Thurman.
Yeah,
Not the actress of the song.
The actress is great. Okay. Uma Thurman is like electronic, like pop stuff, but the chorus or maybe the bridge, I don't remember exactly. It has the surf rock riff in it.
Yeah.
That is characteristic of like the dancing scene from Pulp Fiction, which is why it's called that.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of stuff like that in American Beauty, American Psycho that just cause it to like destabilize that pop image while still having like really like even more so traditional music production aesthetics associated.
And it's weird because I like electronic music, I like surf rock music, and this is a combination of both those, and it doesn't work again. I think because of the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean it really is.
It shows how much like some things can work, some things can't work.
Yeah, Uma Thurman, I believe, is pretty hypersexual if I remember correctly. But
and I'm Mormon.
That's a general net that you can cast on a lot of Fall Out Boy singles specifically.
Yeah, and so like that's like American Beauty, American Psycho, and then Mania is them hitting like the electronic side more. It's like it feels like if you like you start to get some of those sounds that are like those whooshy electronic sounds, like like used in EDM and stuff. You start to get some of that in the songwriting, and it feels like they wanted to make an electronic R&B like pop album, but they were Fall Out Boy.
I'd probably like it.
Well, yeah, and it's in stark contrast to soul punk, which soul punk occupies a similar sound space, which was Patrick Stump's solo album, except it's much more like a blend between like punk, or I should say like pop punk, and like R&B, whereas R&B vocals and pop writing. Whereas here in Mania, which is the last album we're talking about, it's like a watered down, stripped down pop version of that feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I mean they have a song like this exemplifies Fall Out Boy's like trajectory is like now they have a song with Lil Peep, they have a song with 100 Gex. So like there's always this electronic
Jesus.
pop edge.
100 Gex. Not
Yeah.
for Alexi. Hard stance. It's not. We've talked about this before, but just good for them for existing. I'm proud of them, but I can't keep up.
Yeah, and I think Folly You Do, even though we didn't talk about it, or we're talking about it only in passing, I think that album really signifies what happened in the later albums, because on that album you have like a Lil Wayne feature in one of the songs, and it feels completely out of place.
So this is always most of my question I was going to ask earlier. How are they connecting to these people? Is it the label? Do like how whose ideas is this? And is it maybe like during the recording of times in studios, Patrick, who is a big R&B guy, goes and talks to them and like they connect? Is it just like higher ups making these decisions? I don't know if we can figure that out, but like some of them, like again, like me not knowing all these things about how now he has this album where he loves R&B and like he had that thing where he worked closely with Gym Class Heroes, which is kind of like its own thing. It always amazes me how many. First of all, Jay-Z also has that album, that song with Linkin Park. So like, I always wonder like how these connections are made. Like, what is the relationship map for these people?
Isn't there like a remix to Dance Dance where Kanye has a verse or something like that?
It's ain't a scene, it's a arms race.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's the entirety of Fall Out Boy's history is sort of marked by like them going from like rock scene coming into the pop sphere, and both musically, artistically, whatever, but it's also reflected in the recording label history stuff. So
sorry, if you go to a minute and 10 seconds into the This Ain't a Seam, It's an Arm Race Kanye West remix explicit main version, the first thing Kanye says is, "No, I don't know what the hell this song is talking about." And it's perfect. It's so perfect.
The reason I found out about that, I think it might have been a post on Instagram or something that said Kanye's worst features. and I saw that. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they're also on Timbaland's Shock Value album.
Timbaland has a lot of things I liked. I'm learning. Like I also was like reading through and I was like, yeah, he makes stuff I enjoy.
Yeah. So to get back to your question, Fall Out Boy started as punk hardcore. They were on Fueled by Ramen, or I think that may have been their label. I don't know. I'm doing a disservice by not actually knowing this to all the elder emo pop punk people. They're gonna be mad at me. But Fueled by Ramen was essentially the place that like Paramore got picked up. It was the place that like Gym Class Heroes got picked up. Who else? All of the other like Panic at the Disco started there. The Academy Is, which is like an emo pop punk group. There's like a bunch of even Motion City Soundtrack, which is another emo pop punk group. They all passed through Fueled by Ramen.
21 Pilots. Yeah, a lot of people I enjoy are through Fueled by Ramen, which has a terrible logo, by the way. I feel like it should be better.
I don't know the full history of Fueled by Ramen, but I know at some point Fall Out Boy went from Fueled by Ramen to being on Island Def Jam. And that's why they have all the associations with the pop, hip hop, R&B scene. It's because Def Jam their origins are in hip hop. Their origins are in that space.
According to Spotify, it was between Take This to Your Grave and From Under the Cork Tree.
There you go. Thank you. So that may not be. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but Spotify says it. So
I'm just looking at the label release and
I'm
for Take This to Your Grave and Island Def Jam for From Under the Cork Tree. I don't know if they recorded From Under the Cork Tree. before they had the deal or whatever. But
Yeah, I think Island Def Jam owns all of the Fall Out Boy albums aside from Take This to Your Grave.
okay.
So I'm not sure if it's a retroactive labeling or a previous labeling, but either way, they joined Island Def Jam.
I remember seeing Fueled by Ramen commercials, which is fucking weird to say, but I think
super weird.
The Fall Out Boy song on those was Dead on Arrival, even after they had like Dance Dance and all these huge hits. So
that would make sense.
Even they got tired of it.
I mean, yeah,
I don't think they had the rights. I think they would have absolutely used Dance Dance to sell their fucking label.
That's a weird thing to have commercials for, right? Like your music label.
Yeah, it's definitely a relic. You don't really have that anymore.
Driving through LA, I saw a billboard for an album, like a local rap album.
Who the fuck buys albums anymore?
I was blown away by it, and it was just like, I ain't done yet, or something like that. Like, good for you, dude. Good, making the moves.
I ain't done yet. Yeah. But that's why Jay-Z was involved. Not only as like a little intro feature, but also on part of the production of the album. And so this continues on. This continues on like through Folie à Deux and past that, but Folie à Deux has Pharrell doing like some of the composition work on an album on one of the tracks. It has Lil Wayne featuring, there's like another. Oh, it has like Elvis Costello on it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So it gets really out there because they got put into like one of the biggest major labels, So that's where all those features come from, and I'm pretty sure that's also why the Timbaland thing happened. It's on Timbaland's Timbaland did the whole like feature album way before DJ Khaled did, I think. So it's like it's a Timbaland feature someone new on every song album.
Mm-hmm.
Shock value.
Weird.
He also is responsible for Chris Cornell's solo career. Rest in peace.
Damn.
His ill-fated solo career.
Yeah.
I always wonder, I wonder how Jay-Z views, is it just project? I wonder if he really enjoys the work, with working with Fall Out Boy, and he's like, this is something I can't do. Let's these people who have such high influence but still dabble in the creative process. Jay-Z right now could just become a money guy. He doesn't need to do anything else. He could just be a money dude.
One could argue he is.
He is
now more so than before. But at that time, I don't know, those people who, even these guys, I think Pete Wentz owns his own record now.
Yep. Yeah.
His own, and just seeing where they go and how they're I started from here and this, I want to just create music, and now are they viewing it as a business? Are they viewing it as I want to help young artists create? Are they etc. etc. etc.
Yeah, I think again it speaks to the testament of they always wanted to become household pop star, rock star names, in their musical presence at least. So that's probably where that's coming from. Is From Under the Cork Tree was a major success. It was a major label success. We got Sugar We're Going Down and Dance Dance on every fucking TV and every mall in America for years.
Yes.
so it's because of that, they have the pull in the industry, and funnily enough, the best lyrical content from Infinity on High, in my opinion, is not like the introspective Pete Wentz like mulling over feelings about like relationships. It's actually the Pete Wentz reflection on how the industry has like totally fucked with their perception of reality. Um, a lot of the lyrics on the album are like I mean, Thriller is a good example. And that's an obvious homage to Thriller by Michael Jackson, hopefully. But
What?
Yeah, yeah. But your sarcasm is appreciated. Uh, that's like the whole lyrical content of Thriller is sort of just like our pictures are all over the place. We're on all these fucking magazines, on all these news headlines. Like, what the fuck is going on? We're still also writing about like sad personal things. Like, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
And so I think that like that pull that they had from just being stars like got codified as they moved through the years and making new albums, that they could just pull whoever they wanted.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
it's insane.
no other band really does this.
No,
Linkin Park had
the Jay-Z album.
The Jay-Z album. It had In the End. I'm sorry. The Reanimation album, which had like all these songs on it. Like my favorite is In the End, where they remixed their whole album and include features and stuff.
Fall Out Boy did that in American Beauty, American Psycho. They have they have a Make American Psycho Again album. It's literally I know.
Oh boy, was that during the Trump era or was it before?
Absolutely.
It was 2015. But yeah, they have a similar album where it's all features, and like they have like Big Crit on some songs. They have like a lot of wild artists.
I don't know what that is.
Here, let me name drop some because they're really funny. You got Migos on the first song.
Oh
No,
my
boy.
God.
It was Zaytoven. You have ASAP Ferg and Tony Fad on the next song.
Wow. Okay.
Juicy J and Jonathan Jr. wrote them on Centuries.
Juicy J.
Azalea Banks and Kenneth Smith on one. Wiz
That one
Khalifa,
kinda
ID
makes
Labs. Yeah, it does. It does. Wiz Khalifa, ID Labs, Bad Boxes. That's the Uma Thurman one. Big Crit and Childish Major on one.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. Uzi and Cassidy. I don't know who Cassidy is.
Does Kanye come back for another one?
No, Kanye was already out the window
Damn it.
by this point in his career. Kanye blew up beyond Fall Out Boy real quick.
Sorry, Fall Out Boy.
OG Mako and Bobby Johnson. I love Matt Conan and Tony Fad.
Conan O'Brien.
Black
Conan O'Brien features.
Black Thought. I like Black
What
Thought.
the fuck?
And B Weezy. And then the last song has Joey Badass and Zaytoven.
I think Joey Badass still has one of the best names in all of them.
Are you freaking out on Joe?
Fucked. I don't like
Yeah,
this
I
at
know.
all.
Yeah, it's real wild. But you know, read the writing on the wall from previously. Like that's what they wanted all along. Is I'm sort of convinced that they wanted to make like pop music since the beginning, and they were just in the hardcore scene. Like I'm pretty sure that's the case.
They wanted to make money. They wanted to be famous. And they wanted to do cool shit. They want to be rock stars. This is the new rock. Sadly, for some people.
That's basically what it is. In my
This sounds
opinion.
like a banger of an album if there wasn't the Fall Out Boy tag on it, is my issue.
I wonder if Anders listens to that album if he'll really like it.
I would not. I mean, check it out. I guess I haven't listened to everything of theirs because I didn't check out their remix albums. But
They're also pretty heavy into. either Fall Out Boy themselves or the label are definitely trying to push some Southern rappers here. But
Yeah, they definitely are. Yeah, Patrick Stump has always been super heavy on the music production side of things, so this also comes from like that element. Like a lot of the later music, I'm pretty sure is just like Patrick Stump finally realizing they can do like electronic pop music well and wanting to do that. Uh, the album's sort of wild though. I don't know. I'm really tempted to listen to a couple of these songs from the album, but I will not. They also did a song. Patrick Stump is featured on a song with like Macklemore, like stuff like that happens. But yeah, that's sort of like the underpinnings of all of the Fall Out Boy stuff. It's a weird ride. I having listened most recently to like their newer stuff, I am both happy and sad about it. I'm happy that they're finding ways to make music that, in their opinion, like keeps them relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and I think they, if you look at the numbers, it's working. Like I'll just hit some numbers on Spotify because I think the point is really important to make here. Like Mania has double-digit millions plays on all of them except one song that has over 160 million plays. Whereas if we take it back to like, say Infinity on High, for example, you have that in certain songs. You have that in all of the songs with Thanks for the Memories having like 400 million plays. But Mania is so much newer and it doesn't have like a nostalgia value to it.
Yeah.
And so instead what you get is you get people like actually encountering the music and liking it, which I'm personally not a huge fan of the album. I feel like Mania is extremely generic. From not from like a instrumental, well, from an instrumental point of view, but lyrically too, it felt really like lyrically from American Beauty, American Psycho onwards, everything feels pop formulaic. Which really sucks because I really enjoyed the sort of introspectiveness that the other music has. Even if it doesn't hit perfect or well, it's still like, in my opinion, a more enjoyable ride than having generic dance style lyrics in the song. But
generic dance style lyrics in the song.
Yeah, that's pretty close to accurate there, I think.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, they're doing something right, I guess, because they're still relevant to like the pop music scene. Like Century still gets played on every fucking playlist everywhere.
I'm just going through different things. The American Beauty, American Psycho tour had a leg with Wiz Khalifa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's such a weird mix of audiences, in my opinion.
Well, I think they really wanted their audience to change from being the rock audience to being the hip hop audience. Like, Fall Out Boy has always wanted to be hip hop in like the way that hip hop took over pop, but could never do the hip hop pop thing. Like some of the songs off of like Centuries, for example, which I'm not sure if either of you know the song very well, but it's one of the singles off of American Beauty, American Psycho.
I'm sure I heard it and then turned off the radio.
Yeah.
What's the song again? Say it again.
Centuries.
Yeah, Centuries isn't that good.
Yeah, if you think about it, it has like in the verses, it has like a driving drum, like hip hop drum, like hi hat snare thing going on, and it has like Patrick Stump like word singing, which is pretty common in like hip hop, and it's like verse, it's like phrases are like da 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 da. It's like very like pop hip hop oriented, and I think that like that makes perfect sense that they just went to this hip hop side of the pop sphere, and hit it really hard. I don't. Do I personally like it a lot? No. Feels like pop music, and pop music without like a really strong sonic image to it. Which I think if they kept some of the rock in there, I'd probably be listening way more intently. But I just can't. I can't get down the same way with the last three albums that I can with the others.
So the North American leg of the tour they co-headlined with Wiz Khalifa was called the Boys of Summer Tour. Z, Summer with the Z.
Hot Boys
the Boys
Zumma.
of Summer leg with Wiz Khalifa ranked 59th for Polestar's year-end top 200 North American tours of 2015. That's such a weird and giant thing to do. 200? Ranking 200 things for just 1 year?
I wonder if
that's just polls for polls' sake, I guess. Right?
Find any emo bands on it.
I can't even.
Yeah,
Polestar's from Fresno, California, so I guess that explains so much to me.
Their tours have been hugely popular since the hiatus break was over. Hiatus was over. I guess it's redundant to say, but
yeah.
I
like Fall Out Boy. End of sentence. They're fun.
Yeah.
I think what I'm just gonna do now is next time I get a recommendation, I'm just gonna recommend the entire discography of Carly Rae Jepsen, so I can just annoy the two of you.
I would be down with that because she probably doesn't have a lot out.
No, she has like 4 albums or something.
She has like 4 albums, and she once went on record saying she has at least 200 songs recorded and waiting to be released at different times. So I was like,
God damn.
If you say so, Carly.
I probably wouldn't hate it, or I wouldn't be opposed to it, because it's again a fucking same thing with Fall Out Boy. I hear so many people be like, Carly Jepsen is the greatest. She's subverting pop music and making cool shit. And
she's been called the queen of pop by multiple media sources, and it's like, okay.
Fall Out Boy is not subverting pop music. They subverted rock, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's what happened, and it like they subverted rock by wanting to be pop, and maybe I have no idea about Carly Jepsen, but
she has 5 albums.
Oof.
5 albums, 2 remix albums, 4 EPs.
If I was given that task, I would choose Sarah Bareilles as the artist to listen to the entire discography for the.
Does she have 2 tabletop RPGs inspired by her and made that I've played through one of them? No. So goddamn, do I love Carly Rae Jepsen for this dumb shit I did a few months ago.
That's fresh.
She's great.
Sarah Bareilles has a musical that she wrote that's pretty good.
Ooh, speaking of musicals, Andres, would you be interested? And I'm not saying I have options to, but I kind of would be interested in seeing. I don't know anything about it. The American Idiot musical.
No.
Why not? Like,
maybe,
it doesn't seem interesting to you a little bit?
Like, I don't know.
For the record,
if somebody bought me a ticket, I would go. But
that's exactly.
If somebody sent me the link and was like, "Hey, let's buy a ticket to see this," I would say, "Nah, I'm good."
It's apparently really good. Is what blows me away.
I mean, just the album itself has a fucking storyline. I don't need to see people act it out.
Yeah, I don't think I would commit either.
But why watch an anime for a manga you've already read?
Damn.
I kind of
Real
don't.
question time.
Me either. That's the other thing. I was like, I'm shooting myself in the foot with this one.
Yeah.
I specifically choose manga of anime I don't want to watch because it would take too much time to do that. Or take too much focus to do that, and I can just blow through manga.
Yeah.
I'm reading about the tour, the American Idiot musical.
on the topic of the Green Day Weezer comparison, I agree. I also think Green Day has a similar musical trajectory that Fall Out Boy has, just in a different context. Not so hip hop
I
pop
don't know
oriented.
though, because Green Day kind of felt like they had a lot, or they were trying to prove to the punk scene that, hey, we have cred, and it feels like they were fighting that the entire career up until American Idiot, and then they just kind of went like, all right, we're gonna go heavier in the pop direction.
What I mean is mostly like aesthetically. I think like the
Yeah.
motivations are vastly different. Because Fall Out Boy has never really been too concerned with that. With like
Yeah,
the cred thing. Yeah.
even
They've
though
they've been
they might
go
have
ahead.
more cred than Green Day, but who's to say? That's that's subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Fall Out Boy, whether or not they have it, they've like consistently tried to reject notions that they didn't, without giving it too much attention, other than like some lyrical reference. Um, I just think
Yeah.
about like the pop advancement of every rock artist who was active in the early 2000s and is still active now. I think they're all very similar in that everyone's been trying to make a mass exodus into pop music land in a way that's effective.
Yeah. And I think
And
Green Day has
yeah.
just kind of ended up in the dad rock area where, because I think they're trying to they try to push back on the notion that they're pop, even though they definitely are. So I
Mhm.
think they kind of just became K-rock core with their newer stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, I agree there. Um if anything, like New Fall Out Boy gets props for just fucking ganging on the music scene still in terms of pop and pop production, pop as a
Yeah,
genre.
I think I think what the point I'm trying to make is Fall Out Boy is actively still trying to pursue the pop dream and trying to stay big, whereas Green Day, I think, realizes that they are already big and have a fan base, so they're trying to, maybe pander is a hard word or harsh word, but uh, they're trying to play to them.
They're playing to the audience they want to play to, rather than trying to continuously morph and adapt as Fall Out Boy does.
Yeah.
Well, the other option is like, I remember AC/DC's like came up with an album, and I was listening to some people talk about it, and they're like, they made another album. Sounds exactly like you think it was, because it sounds like the last 3 albums that came out. And that's fine. That's exactly what we want. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you don't need to change sometimes. Sometimes that's what people want. And then other points where it's like, hey, this is kind of boring for me as a creator. Like, okay, cool. Let's try something different, even if people might not like it.
Or you can
Yeah, it's
be
a
as like
balance.
manic as Rivers Cuomo and just make weird pop records, and then make a acoustic record, and then make a cover record, and just do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, it's like this
God
balance
damn.
between you like making a choice between like audience satisfaction, personal satisfaction, and for pop artists like monetary satisfaction. Those are all like weird considerations.
Yeah.
It's
Of the
it's a
three
it's a far
bands,
cry.
I only hear Fall Out Boy on TV, so
Yep. Yeah. That's that's a thing. I wish they were making music that I still really enjoyed. But I also need to reflect and think about like how much of the music I listen to is like a nostalgia factor.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think a lot of it, right? For most people.
yeah, for most people, I think like one of the things I haven't connected yet in my brain that maybe I'm just talking through now is I when I like sing a song, like you get a sort of satisfaction from singing something and knowing it's right, and like the whole like musical performance side of things. And I think because I grew up listening to these songs and I know that most of the songs from like the first three big albums intimately, um, and at for first big four albums intimately, I get like this weird satisfaction from like hitting the right pitches and like doing the right things. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if like I didn't engage with the music in this way, if it would still be as exciting to me, or like, because I mean most of the time when I'm listening I'm singing, so I don't know what that's about. But
That's you're enjoying the music. That's the way to do it.
yeah, I wish I could
The
just like remove
falsetto part
myself.
of Saturday RN.
Yeah. Uh, I'll also like a fun tidbit to point out, since we did like a full discography overlook, is that like some of the songs from Save Rock and Roll and American Psycho, or American Beauty, American Psycho, have like small samples that were in Take This to Your Grave um and Night Out with Your Girlfriend in them.
I don't know why that kind of bothers me.
Well, I mean,
I don't know why the idea of it being like I'm gonna reference my own stuff
That sounds
people do it.
cool to
Basically-
me, but
feels
Yeah.
weird. I don't know why that
People,
feels a little weird.
the song on Save Rock and Roll that happens, um it has a song, it's using a sample like the end of a verse from one of the songs from Take This to Your Grave. And the only reason it's put there is because the song lyrically from Save Rock and Roll is all about how like their entire musical direction has changed, and how people like that's like the best they're gonna get, and that's what they're gonna have to deal with now.
Interesting.
Yeah, so stuff like that happens, but little fun facts. Yeah, so I think we all sort of went through closing thoughts, but if anyone has any final thoughts about the experience of digging into parts of Fall Out Boy's discography, I'd love to pick those out.
had a great
I'll just say as my closing thought, the reason I recommended the song Saturday specifically is because that's what I imagine in my head when I think of Fall Out Boy. Is it has a little bit of everything that I think of, where it's heavy at times, really poppy at times, and Patrick Stump is like hitting these wild vocal runs. It was like I couldn't help but think in my head, this is quintessential Fall Out Boy. And it obviously is not the full story, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's the song that I think of when I think of Fall Out, or that's the type of sound I think of when I think of Fall Out Boy. And how people talk about them, at least people I interact with talk about them. Yeah, man, I can't anymore. I'm so tired of hearing Patrick Stump's voice, if I'm being completely honest. And I had listened to Fall Out Boy from the Monday after we recorded last to
Oh God.
To the Wednesday, this past Wednesday, and then on Thursday I just put on Brave Little Abacus driving back from work, and I was so happy. So I just cannot listen to Fall Out Boy for a good while. I think I'm over it.
Is there any songs that you think you'll be adding to like your rotating playlists? Any songs that you listen to, Andres?
Maybe. I mean, I do have some favorites. XO from Under the Cork Tree is really good. I I also like the first song to an extent. Our lawyer made us change the name of the song. I don't know what the full thing is.
So we won't get sued.
Yeah.
I definitely
and then there's
am not adding anything myself.
Yeah, I mean, I might add EXO and maybe a couple songs from Take This to Your Grave, but yeah.
Yeah.
Dead on
I don't
Arrival is a pretty quintessential pop punk song, so that's a good one.
Yeah, for me, like, they've always been on my rotation.
Yeah,
but
I don't think I'm adding new songs.
Yeah, well,
I liked what I know. That's about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the funny thing is, like, now I can say for sure I'm not adding any of the songs from like the last 3 albums onto any form of rotation that I have, and I also do not want to listen to Fall Out Boy for a while. Having to listen to the last 3 albums like back to back to back to like just familiarize myself with them was painful. Mostly from like a timbral, like a sound quality point of view, because production's really high. There's like special like electronic tinge that's given to Patrick Stump's vocals, and they're just like piercing because they're really high. I mean, they're good, but
I made a comment earlier in the week that I can't handle high produced voices, and it was 100% because I was listening to Fall Out Boy far too much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even from Under the Cork Tree, it was starting to irritate me. I can't imagine what it's like listening to a full new Fall Out Boy album.
Not fun at all. I mean, it's fun if you like have it on really low passively in your car while you're driving, but if it's high volume,
and I will say, the first time I put on From Under the Cork Tree, I was thinking, oh, maybe this isn't gonna be that bad. Like, this is I kind of like this. This is hitting a nice pop balance with stuff I'm interested in, and by the third listen, I'd say I was just kind of, maybe it was because I wasn't having the best day or whatever, but I was just glazed over. My head was starting to hurt by the end of it.
Gosh.
It was like, man, I don't want to listen to this, but I'm gonna power through it.
I think.
Sorry, Andres.
Yeah.
That's a bad time.
If anyone listening or in our recording session ever decides to listen to Fall Out Boy again, I really do recommend like a couple of songs from maybe Folie à Deux and a couple songs from Infinity on High as like a place to get to like something that's much more interesting than what we've already talked about.
Yeah. From what
because
I could tell,
that's where the writing is.
Yeah. From what I could tell, Infinity on High, the songs you sent, they seem to not be trying to hold on to anything in particular. Like, they're not trying to hold on to the pop punk sound or whatever. They're just willing to go into full pop without being so grand production behind it as in the newer albums, which kind of sounds like a nice pocket that I could actually get into.
Yeah, that I would say that Folie à Deux is that, but a little bit more rock tinged than some of the. I mean, like it's a weird balance, but both of those albums have some opportunity to not feel like you're stuck in pop punk space.
I like Say Rock and Roll. I like that album a lot. I don't like most of the other albums as much as they do. I like some singles. Thanks for the Memories is a phenomenal song, in my opinion. I don't understand the fucking music video where there's like a monkey, like multiple monkeys. It can be and like the monkey's gonna like fuck like Pete Wentz's girlfriend or whatever, or like Patrick's girlfriend. It's very confusing. I don't know. I hope when Patrick Stump and Pete Wentz listen to this podcast, they call us so they can be on it and defend the album. That'd be pretty cool. And if not, like, we tried.
Andy Hurley, if you're listening, I do. The one thing I got from this is that Race Trader is pretty cool, though.
yes. Great, yeah, Race Trader is great.
And I just fucking was looking at videos of their old bands and saw a Race Trader show from like 2018, and it was like, right on, dude.
Yeah. I think if anyone's listening, all of you are great at music, even though I don't like all of it. Keep on doing you. Come on the show. Multi-million-dollar pop stars.
What are we doing next, Sandra?
Yeah, hit us with the fresh rec.
So for my recommendation this next episode, I think on the topic of Fall Out Boy, funny thing about the name.
No.
It's a reference to a show. A little show called The Simpsons.
Oh no. How are we gonna do this?
Are we gonna watch all the Simpsons in one week?
I will not make you guys jump into the wild world of The Simpsons. I will just show you some of my favorite episodes. I'm not gonna make you guys do an episode from season 20 because Lord knows I do not want to put myself through the pain that Manny had to listening to the last 3 Fall Out Boy albums. I'm not searching for like legacy, sure, because by this point The Simpsons is a legacy show, but we're going to the golden age of that legacy, not season 30 or whatever the fuck they're on. Even though no matter how many times I hear The Simpsons talked about, I always hear somebody say, oh, like they got good writers again, the later episodes are still pretty good. And then I see the episode description where it's something like Homer discovers Twitter in 2019 and makes his own account.
Oh my god, that sounds awful.
Yeah, so
it's the same thing where I've heard some people are like, oh, like this really funny comedian's a head writer on SNL, and it's like, then why is SNL never funny? Why is it never good? It just sucks.
So
we are an anti-SNL podcast.
I know I am.
Yeah, I like SNL, but
since when?
Because Alicia exposed me to it. With Alicia, like a year ago.
Like a new episode, or just like clips from previous years?
New episodes. I mean, the skits aren't the skits aren't funny, but like some of them can be. They're ironic.
Like spending time
they're
with
ironic.
Alicia. You don't like SNL. That is too different.
No,
That's what I've heard here.
Here's what's happening with it. We are not going to have an SNL episode, but for the record,
I'll leave.
For the record, I think for what SNL does, there are moments where they're humorous, but they're not really like getting me ever. And I think that's what happens. Is like I'll be watching and it's like some of them are funny, but not like extremely enticing for me to continue watching. But
there are people I respect greatly on SNL, mainly Kyle. but from what I could tell, they never really utilized him if he's still even on the show. There's also somebody on there they just added that I've heard on a couple podcasts that seems absolutely insane that she's actually on SNL, but
there's what's her name?
Sarah. I don't know what her actual name is, but her comedian name is Sarah Squirm.
Oh, they have Sarah Squirm on the show? Or is she a writer? Or?
No, she's like on the show now. They just announced
What?
it. Yeah.
What? That's wild. Sarah is wild.
Yeah.
I never heard of her.
I follow Sarah on Instagram, and her stuff is wild.
Let me see
It's
if I know
kind of
her.
like body horror or
Uh-huh.
That's
It's
straight up Alexi's alley.
it's good shit.
Oh.
I love her stuff. That's crazy that she's on. 'Cause she's popular with like all the artsy
She's rocking that
folks.
mullet, which I don't know if I agree with.
because like so many of the people, the followers that are following her on Instagram are like Dream Crusher,
Yeah.
Natasha Deals. Like it's
she's
like
in quite the scene.
she's in the
like-
scene.
God,
That's so
that
cool.
shit is gross.
Yeah.
I love this.
The things about SNL that get me are not the. Let me put it this way: the things about SNL that get me are not the
Follow.
skits. They're the people. They're like the specific comedians who have some funny things that they do. I think that that's more the vibe. Like Melissa Villaseñor, like her voices are great. Like she does great stupid voices. That's her thing.
I'm not gonna comment anything on the podcast about that. Anyway, so Anders, do you have like a list of like episodes we're gonna watch?
Yeah. I have a very long list of episodes that are possible, but
Okay.
so if at any point you want something off of the list, I'm willing to help that, but I'm trying to cast a wide net on what makes The Simpsons special, because it is funny, but there are quite a bit of touching episodes. I'll also try to touch on some memes that you might recognize.
Should
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
I was going to ask for the audience listening at home, what should their directive be?
I feel like we could just post the giant list that Andres has, and then maybe like highlight what episodes like we watched later.
That sounds
be
like we need. That sounds like we need to really
Well-
coordinate.
Yeah, I'm just I picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes.
That's not that much.
I love all of them. I'm contemplating
I love
whether
Lucy.
or not I should change any of them out, but I just made the executive decision in my head. I'm gonna go with these.
Nice.
There you
Or
go.
else-
There you go. Don't complicate it.
Okay, so these are kind of coordinated where I'm trying to have a variety of different writers, and I'm trying to choose episodes from different seasons. I threw one of them, I'll say at the end, because it's probably my favorite episode, and you don't really have to watch it, but I just love it a lot. So from season 2, there's Lisa's Substitute. From season... Did I forget season 3? Yeah, I think I forgot to get one from season 3, but whatever.
We'll add it in post. Don't worry about it.
We'll add it. We can add it in post.
Uh,
Hey,
I-
on which season
for-
3 episode did you include? And then just an overhead of like Andres.
I didn't
Try to
include a season 3 episode, so I'll just add it there if you want to watch it. Stark Raving Dad. That one's pretty good. It also has Michael Jackson in it.
Fresh.
Oh shit. They might have taken it off streaming because it has Michael Jackson in it is the issue. So
I was planning on not watching any of this on streaming. Is that
that's fine.
okay?
You have it on DVD or something?
Well, I know that in post streaming or in streaming land, they like to edit uploads, especially on Disney Plus, which is where I think The Simpsons are.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna find it elsewhere. That way, I didn't have to deal with any weird censoring.
Okay.
I'll watch streaming to see if there is any weird censoring.
Cool.
From the top, Lisa's Substitute from season 2, Stark Raving Dad from season 3, Marge versus the Monorail, and is Cape Fear season? God fucking damn it! Okay. Marge versus the Monorail from season 4. Cape Fear from season 5. And Maggie Makes 3 from season 6. 22 short films about Springfield from season 7. And
is that just like a minute clips of like not related to different things?
That's
so cool. Don't tell me.
It's a really
I'm just gonna
fun
watch it.
episode that has
Yeah.
a lot of different
Stop
writers.
asking questions, bitch.
No.
And the last
That's
one,
called conversation.
last one is Itchy, Scratchy, and Poochie Show from season 8.
Ooh.
And the one I'll throw, well, I added Stark Raving Dad, but extra credit if you want to watch one of my favorites is Lemon of Troy from season 6, I believe.
I have to ask the important question, even though I told Alexia not to ask any more questions, which is...
Fucking hypocrite piece of shit.
Yeah, which is... are any of the Treehouse of Horror ones on that list?
No.
Do
And
we get Rat Boy?
Oh, shit. I don't think so.
Do we get
We get...
do we get Bart, you want surprise before you go to bed?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm hoping... Well, I'm asking this because the meme is so big. Do we get the Simpson... what the fuck am I talking about? Do we get Homer receding into the hedges?
No. That one's funny episode, but it's not really representative of the show all that much.
I have one distinct memory of watching Simpsons when it was on TV once, and it's when Marge is on a plane, and then she just goes, "Get me off, get me off, get me off," and like you can see her hair running back and forth. I just wanted to mention that. That's like one of the very few Simpsons things I have. I don't have a very close relationship to the Simpsons. Manny?
Me either. Although I did just watch a YouTube video that obviously took like half an episode of a newer Simpsons episode and put it up on YouTube. But it was of Bart and Lisa, and well, the entire Simpsons family being in the future where they have kids and like their kids hate their parents.
Oh, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was like they wanted to be Futurama for a second. Yeah. There
was a post, like some fan art I saw, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to send it on just because it's just kind of like, Like it's cool, but it's also not. It's Lisa and Bart, Milhouse, and who's the bully? Nelson. And they're like kind of like early college years, and like Lisa's like just typical girl. Nelson's like typical person. Bart has like a little like pot belly. That's like his one defining characteristic. And then Milhouse is jacked. Like he's just jacked and like I was like, okay, they just made Milhouse hot for some fucking reason.
Yeah. Milhouse being hot is weird. Let's put that out there.
It's a fantasy, I'm sure, from some people who relate to Milhouse.
Everything's coming up Milhouse.
I'm excited for this, even though we don't have any Treehouse of Horror.
I wonder.
I purposely
wrote any of these episodes.
I'm curious as to why you. Just because that's such like a cultural thing, you know.
Yeah,
I'm wondering.
I love the Treehouse of Horrors, but I feel from everybody I've talked to, that's kind of the only connection to the world to The Simpsons where you don't really need to be into it to have seen a Treehouse of Horror. And they're great, but 22 short films about Springfield is pretty similar formatting where it's a bunch of different stories, but I think that's just kind of one of my favorite episodes and really shows off the side cast.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So one of my favorite people on the planet, Conan O'Brien, was a writer for The Simpsons for a while.
Yeah.
He wrote Treehouse of Horror 4, Wraparound, like that's what it says after. Don't know. He wrote New Kid on the Block, and he wrote Marge versus the Monorail, and Homer Goes to College. And he was a producer on another one, Stark Raving Dead. That's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely chose March versus the Monorail partially for that, but it's also just kind of one of the classic Simpsons episodes.
I just love Conan so much.
And I also forgot to mention that as it is with really long series, really long sitcoms, I should say, episodes tend to have their specific subjects and are written towards different point of views. So I tried to... There's definitely a Marge episode, a Homer episode, a Bart episode, a Lisa episode, and kind of a Maggie episode. There really aren't any Maggie episodes, and Maggie Makes Threes kind of there. It's definitely more of a Homer episode, but...
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's going to be interesting when I come onto the show and just, instead of watching it, I just replayed the Simpsons arcade game 3 times and said that was me watching all the episodes.
Yeah, I'm going to play Hit and Run and do that.
Ooh, nice. Good one.
Hit and Run is fairly close to the show.
It is, yeah. It's also... Parts of it are really hard.
Yeah, I don't think I ever beat it, if I'm being honest. I just got to the last world where, like, the aliens have taken over, and I think I just got really tired of doing the same missions over and over.
I remember when I read in Game Informer that it was like GTA, but characters are yellow. Simpsons Hit and Run.
It's basically if you mix GTA and the Pimp My Ride game, because you can just smash through things and get money.
Oh my god, I'm gonna start doing my recommendations on things that are so culturally niche that we need like a whole episode just to talk about what it is, and the Pimp My Ride video game is going to be one of those.
We're not doing that again.
We had a discussion on Pimp My Ride, but we did not have the full discussion.
We did enough on the
I'm gonna do the Burger King video games.
Oh, that'd be... We can get David on that one.
David, oh my, that's perfect.
We can totally get David on that one. Oh my gosh.
Is that really
either way
to recommend though? I don't think those video games are known for being good.
That's fine.
No one said good. We just said sus.
Good.
We said we're trying to suss it out.
I recommended. I like my things. Fuck you. I'll give a shit if they're good or not. I like them. That's the whole point.
I mean, exactly. Do you actually enjoy the Burger King game?
I enjoy a reason to get David on the podcast. See if he'd like it.
Okay, this is a good time for plugs.
Go follow. I just named all of David's socials.
At SUSSED Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the YouTube, please.
One day someone will follow it. I haven't even followed it. Maybe I should follow it. My plug is...
what the fuck did you just say?
You heard me, bitch.
You don't follow our own YouTube shit?
No, not yet. I
it's
haven't
literally just 3 of my accounts and I think 2 of yours.
This one. One of my accounts.
So we have an extra one.
Ooh, we do have a subscriber. Thank you for subscribing. One listener.
Fuck up, man.
My rec is go find a band that you connect with on some level and enjoy their stuff, because music is cool even if you don't like all of it.
Go to a bar, be safe, and then dance. Just go dance for a bit. It's fun to dance.
Follow the Church of Satan on Facebook and Twitter.
Ooh.
I don't know if they have those things. I imagine they don't.
You're such an idiot. Oh my gosh.
Go watch some Simpsons episodes.
That did that. That did that.